Doug?
Grandpa.
You know.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
You can call me Grandpa, not you.
I have 6 o'clock.
Calls me Grandpa because I call him. I was closer than
This is 6 o'clock. First coach.
running.
Ready to go?
Yep.
All right. I'd like to call this Parks and Recreation meeting to order. Mr. Bigley? Here. Ms. Greenwood?
Here.
And Mr. Ballack is here. We have a couple people that are going to speak tonight. Mr. Bradley and Ms. Perez, is that right? Okay. She requested a little late, but she thought it was a 24-hour notice, and instead of a 48-hour notice. So I said it would be fine for her to speak, and then Mr. Clyde as well. Everybody else, it's people speaking are people at this table and the people that I've recognized already. So with that said, Mr. Bradley, the floor is yours.
Would you like me to stand or?
However you're most comfortable.
Okay. Firstly, we want to thank everyone here this evening for giving us the chance to speak on behalf of our kids. The kids are our singular focus and motivation for being here this evening. However, I can't totally avoid discussing some of the background information about the experiences that I have shared working on behalf of youth baseball in our town in order to try to establish some context for some of you. Excuse me. But our chief motivation is to help our kids. I hope there will be some follow-up questions, as I believe that it's incredibly important to understand how we got here in order to hopefully improve things for the better moving forward. However, like anyone who has children of their own, or like anyone who has been entrusted with the responsibility of coaching young athletes knows, it is simply in our blood to advocate for our kids, and that is why we're here before you tonight. A growing number of us believe that our children are not being treated fairly in respect to their limited access to the baseball field at Monty Park. I will elaborate on that term, limited access, shortly, but even if our efforts tonight yield no policy change, I'm at least hoping to gain more clarity as to how the city can back a policy that so very blatantly favors some of its children over others. There's a lengthy history of our community working together to welcome boys and girls to play ball on its available fields. I vividly remember my first Little League practice at Lion Platte, where our elementary school currently sits, all the way back in 1993. I never played games there, but I remember watching my sister play games on the main Lion Platte field even earlier in the early 90s and late 80s. I also remember practicing and playing multiple games on the main field at Monty. When I was growing up, we had so many kids playing in our town that games had to be scheduled at Monty and Lion Platte regularly. I'm sure that scheduling so many games at so many locations was challenging for the adults in town. That would involve league officials and coaches, elected city officials, and representatives from the school system. Again, that could not have been easy, but all the leaders at that time put the needs of the kids in town first and found ways to make it work. We have always been a community that pulls together to help its children, and I hope that we can embrace that spirit now and work together on behalf of Struthers children. You don't have to go all the way back to the early 90s to find a time where our kids in Struthers played fall ball as a part of an independent team at Monty Park. When we first began our fall program, we had no clue just how big it would become in our community, and we never expected it to spread throughout the Youngstown area the way that it has. It was just a little over 3 years ago that Kathy had reached out to me to line up an interview with a gentleman from the Vindicator who was writing an article on the declining numbers in youth baseball throughout the area. The article that I have here, if anybody wants to take a peek at it, discussed how so many youth programs were in decline in our area, but our community of Struthers was actually growing in numbers, and we had multiple independent fall baseball teams that played fall ball at Monty in 2016 and in 2017. In 2018, that's the year that I became a part of the SBL board, and fall was moved to the complex at that time. But we did make it work in 16, and we made it work in 17, and I really do believe that if everyone in this room can work together, we can make it work again now. We right now have about 3 dozen families playing independent rec baseball, and our home field is in Springfield. My team is entering its 2nd season there. 2 other Struthers teams left the FBL facility after last season, and they are also entering their 1st season out in Springfield. We are well aware that the scheduling doesn't work out to play home games at Monty during the spring due to the SHS girls and JV varsity programs using the field. But I still can't understand why we can't play on the fields when they're empty throughout the fall. This leads me back to the idea of limited access. Right now, SHS girls can practice and play games at Monty. SBL boys and girls, one of whom is my daughter, can practice and play games at Monty. But our independent Struthers boys teams can practice there, but we can't play there, even if nothing is scheduled at the park on that day. Our kids are the only team in town, they're on the only teams in town, that can't play ball on their town's public field. My daughter can play games at Monty under the current city policy, but my son cannot. That has been incredibly difficult for me to wrap my mind around, and I don't yet have a logical explanation as to why that's the case. The city's current website reads that the ball fields at Monty are open to the public when not in use by our Struthers High School Lady Cats, 1, or the Struthers Baseball League, 2. It is imperative for me to stress that we are not asking for our kids to cut the line or be first in line. We aren't even asking for them to be second in line. All we are asking is to simply get our kids a spot at the end of the line, and to this point we have been told no. Again, I'm sure those of you who have children or have coached children can imagine how disheartening and maddening that is. We want our boys to have the same opportunity with the public park as every other child in town. I've heard some of the potential issues in scheduling. I've heard about the parking concerns, and I've heard many reasons why this supposedly could not work. I firmly believe that if the city and the park can navigate those issues when SHS girls play there, and they can navigate those issues when SBL boys and girls play there, and if past administrations found ways to navigate the logistical challenges when there were far more kids playing in our town than there are now, that we can also work together to navigate those issues if our boys were to play there too. We ask that everyone involved here reconsider the previous decision and at least consider attempting simply a 1-year trial period, no more than perhaps 12 games this fall. Give these children a 1-year shot. Give them fair and equal access to Monty, because that is what every single child in this community deserves. Thank you.
Ms. Perez, you want to speak now?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Sorry for my stumble there.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, good evening. My name is Stacy Perez, and my son plays on one of the Struthers Senior Jalapeno baseball teams. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the families of the Struthers Senior Jalapeno baseball teams in hopes that our children's best interests are put at the forefront of the decisions made moving forward. I was born and raised in Struthers and currently open enroll all 3 of my children in the district. The district I very much love and respect. I do not know the legality or the reasons behind the decision to not allow our kids to play their home games at Monty Park on their home city baseball field, but I do know that we as a collective group believe it to be unfair for our kids. For many years, there was only one youth football organization in Struthers, right? They are known as the Struthers Little Wildcats. Problems arose and a differing of opinions created a separation, so parents decided to create another youth football organization in the city. They created the Struthers Hardhats. Today, both of those youth football organizations coexist peacefully, and both teams receive a scheduled spot to play in their home games on a home field in Struthers. It does not matter the reasons behind why Struthers Senior Jalapenos baseball teams currently exist. It does not matter who agrees why we chose that option for our boys. What matters is that the teams do exist as Struthers teams. All the boys and their families are upstanding residents of Struthers and or attend Struthers City Schools, and they represent the city with pride. There are a growing number of boys on our teams that deserve to play their games and represent their city on a home field. The Struthers senior jalapeno baseball teams are starting their second season soon. Our boys are learning, they are having fun, they are respectfully representing the city and Struthers in every game that they play. We do not know why they cannot represent their city on the home field. If the Struthers high school softball teams and the Youth Struthers baseball league teams are allowed to play games and practice on the Monty Field Park, then why can our boys not be afforded the same opportunity? Our city is known to rally behind one another when needed. Our city encourages growth and new beginnings. I know this because I'm currently a member of our online community engagement platform, Let's Discover Struthers, a place where the leaders are encouraging community members to share information and collect ideas and receive feedback from the community to help make Struthers a better place for all community members. Not allowing accessibility to a public field for a Struthers youth baseball team is not showing growth and equity to all organizations that exist within the community. A lot was against our boys teams when we started this season last year. Instead of our city meeting us with help and resources, we were denied the use of the fields for the games at Monty Park. Our boys missed playing on a home field, and it's time to allow them to get back to representing Struthers in their own city, on their own field. I know the families would appreciate this gesture, mostly our boys, the kids of our community. They deserve a spot on a home field. We appreciate your time to hearing us tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Clyde,
Yes, sir.
can you speak as to?
I sure can speak about it. First off, I'd like to say to everybody here that we had a gentleman's agreement at a meeting that we had last year with Mr. Bradley and his teams on what the reasons were that we had problems accommodating him at Monty Park. The problem being is that when we have the hall rented and the pavilion rented, there is not enough parking to take care of a baseball game, a pavilion rental, and a hall rental. We've tried everything that we possibly can. We've tried to have overflow parking go up to Manor Avenue School. When the situation arises, we put a standard up in front of the gates at Monty Park. And unfortunately, myself and my co-workers have to stand out front and be policemen and try to get the people to go to park at Manor Avenue School. And the abuse that we've taken is something that I cannot bring to the floor at this time. But I can tell you this, we've tried everything to do it, and they just will not cooperate, period. So the situation arose when we had our meeting that we decided that because of the parking situation and the non-cooperation from Mr. Bradley's league and everybody else involved, that we decided that it was not a possibility to have those two items going on at the same time. And the reason is, I have paying customers that have first rights to the parking, and that's the way it has to be. If you have a situation where you're trying to have a baseball game without any communications to myself or the city, and we come to the park and I have customers coming for a party and there's not a parking space to be had, we have a problem. So we have tried everything. We have bent over backwards to try to accommodate Mr. Bradley and his teams and everything for practices and what we needed to do, and we had that agreement, and that's where it stands.
Okay. How about when you have the overflow from the Struthers Baseball League, when they come over to play games over at Struthers?
The same thing happens there too, Jim.
Okay, so do you decline them the availability of the fields and say, no, you can't play a game because?
If we have a conflict with a day where there's a baseball game to be scheduled and we have a rental for that day, the rental takes first priority. The
Okay.
baseball game would need to be canceled or postponed to a different date.
Okay. All right. How about as far as, how many hours do you put in a week? You know that time of year.
Well, I get paid for 40 hours a week.
Okay.
My average time during the summer with all my duties, taking care of the park and weekends and everything, I can put anywhere from 45 to 50 to 55 hours in a week.
Okay.
And get a no overtime, no time and a half.
Okay.
It's a straight 40 hours.
Okay.
That's it. And because of how busy we get, at this time now, I have no weekends open. I think I have one weekend open between now and the end of July.
Okay,
And the bookings are just constant.
okay,
And it's every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's our busy time of the year.
yeah,
And even fall time, when these gentlemen, ladies are trying to do fall ball, we have the same situation. You know, that the hall's rented, the pavilion's rented, we're having parties, and there is just not enough parking at Monty Park to be able to accommodate everybody.
okay.
If
Yes,
I could,
ma'am.
real quick.
Yes.
Just something that I think was kind of misrepresented there. The SBL doesn't schedule their regular games there. The SBL only schedules them if it's an emergency or if the fields are rained out, which is usually either the day of or the day before. And at that point, nobody's renting the hall, nobody's renting, so those fields are only used as a last minute thing. So it's not a pre-scheduled game.
So that's
we're gonna
emergency
try to-
overflow only.
Yes.
That's the only time you use those. There's
Or if it's a couple days before where it's planned and there's nothing already tying up the
I got a question.
Sure.
I got one question I'd like to ask you, Mark.
Yes.
For the Struthers Baseball League, did you contact them about moving, seeing if you could move in down there with these teams?
We,
And what,
okay, sorry.
go ahead.
We made what we felt was a pretty lucrative offer to the Struthers Baseball League, which they declined. And then they had a change of administration, invited us to another meeting, and then we were told at that meeting that they would not be, they're not renting out to anybody anymore after last year. So there were a couple of programs that were allowed to rent out of there last year. We were not one of them. And going into this fall, when we revisited it with the new board, we were told that they have no interest in renting out to an independent team there. So we tried that option.
It's not renting out. What I'm talking about is your team.
Mhm,
They bringing you into their system,
mhm.
the Struthers Baseball League.
Well, the issue that we had with one of the big contrasts between our league, what we do in our league and what they do, is essentially, well, there's a number of differences, but to give you one very clear and obvious one. So Struthers 12 and 11-year-old boys are still playing by Little League rules. Going into last fall, our league advanced to the 50-70. It's basically like it's like a high school style to play on a smaller field. So that's not, to a baseball coach, a small difference. There's a lot, any baseball fan would understand the difference between Little League rules and high school rules. So for us to have brought our boys, made that the biggest focus on the off season is adjusting to that style of play. To simply go back to Struthers Baseball League would be a huge step back for our players' development. And we have, we play a very wide pool on our schedule, where Struthers Baseball League plays primarily Poland. I think the last year we were part of Struthers Baseball League, we had 18 games on the schedule. 12 of them at that time were against Poland. I know they've added Mill Creek. Camel and Lovell are doing some different things there, but we play 10 different communities. Our kids enjoy going to different communities. It's just a very different baseball experience there. And so what they offer baseball-wise, I'm trying to word it carefully. It's just, we've moved beyond that. You know what I mean? So to go back to that, to go back to a more simplistic schedule and a more simplistic set of rules, we've all decided that that's just not in the best interest of our kids. And I can tell you from the kids' perspective, this was huge. I was not an advocate for the 12U going to 50-70 and leading off and holding on to runners. But we had to play a few games that style this fall. And the kids, Coach Danny can account for this, they were like, oh, we got to play Little League rules today? Like, what about 50-70? When I saw how much they loved it, I was like, I can't go back. They love that style of play. And again, you know, it goes back to the central reason we're here tonight. We're here to advocate for our kids, and it would not be in their best interest as baseball players to go back to a more simplistic form of the sport. We've kind of moved on from that.
And so you're talking, these kids are 11 and 12 years old, that's it.
No, there's 9-10 league too.
9-10?
So the style of play would only work for the 11 and 12, but again, the biggest reason that the 10-year-old group is where it's at right now, maybe I don't know. Do you want me to defer to you? Or
I'll tell you what. I think we're getting a little off track.
Okay,
You know, with the details of these things. I mean, we're talking about the use of the
I
park.
got
So
you.
let's
Right. I agree.
try
Forgive me.
and stay on track with
Forgive
that.
me.
Okay,
So I just
that's
have a
fine.
question. So Lady Cats play their games there, right?
Yes.
So I don't follow.
Do they only play emergency games there, or
No.
Struthers
No,
Baseball
they don't
League?
have a-
Struthers-
they don't
Okay,
have
Struthers
a-
Baseball League
Right.
only plays.
High school.
I'm just trying to understand
Me
it.
too.
You gotta understand that this is like new to us
Yeah.
as of tonight,
No,
and there's a
I-
lot going on, so I'm trying to take all of this
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
and
So Lady
really.
Cats play their games there and practice.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I thought
Struthers
that
Baseball
was
League
just
only
the Lady
uses it
Cats
for emergency
It is.
games,
No, that's
field, right?
what I'm
It's
saying.
the Lady Cats field.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he said
but it's
the
also
boys
public.
practice there, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, his teams practice there as well.
Yes.
So I mean, it's not a matter of
So
practicing being
So
a
you
problem.
guys do you still practice?
Yes,
a lot?
and I hope you understand, Mr. Cloud. We do appreciate all your work with that. We do. And when we had met, before fall, I know that I told you I was grateful that we were going to get to practice there, but I also made clear I do believe our boys deserve the chance to play there too. That they haven't had we don't know that it's not going to work because they've never played a fall ball game there since 2017. It hasn't happened. So one thing that Kathy brought up, how it's done on short notice, where the field's not, or excuse me, the hall is not going to be reserved in any so they're able to be flexible with Struthers Baseball League. We would be happy with that. We would be happy being the third party that says, hey, it's Wednesday, there's nothing scheduled at the field, there's nothing scheduled at the hall. Can we move our game from Springfield to Struthers because that's where our boys want to be?
When are your games usually scheduled?
I control that. So, as long as the game was scheduled, I could easily, I was a part of the creation of this fall league. So if I were to schedule a game with, say, Springfield, Crestview, Columbiana, we can make it known that we've got to play some of our games in Springfield, but when Monty Park, our home park is wide open, and there's nobody in the hall, and there's nobody on the field, at 24 hours notice, I make that phone call, very comparable to the way you interact with Struthers Baseball League. And if it doesn't work out, if there was something scheduled, then I want to make it very clear, we're not trying to come to the field when it is occupied. We had that issue, and I think we had it once, and it was resolved after that. We did not have that issue a second time. I think we both agreed, if I remember, Mr. Clyde,
Yes,
there was
sir.
miscommunication. I own that, and it didn't happen a second time. Every time, that issue that you're referring to everybody happened once and did not happen again.
And
I think that's more evidence that this can work if we
And
work.
I will agree with you, when we communicated in the fall, we had no problems.
Mhm.
But my concern is this, if you put a schedule together,
Mhm.
and I get a call for a rental on the hall of the pavilion,
Mhm.
then I have to call you and cancel your game.
We'll play it in Springfield.
Yeah.
Are you a Springfield team or a Struthers team?
We are a Struthers team that pays Springfield to play on their property.
Because we
Because
don't have
again,
anywhere to
we had
play.
offered that to Struthers, as Struthers Baseball League. That was declined. That's how they tie in there. And then the only other field in town is Monty. There's no-
Okay.
It's all Struthers kids. It's a Struthers sponsor. We wear Struthers. It's Struthers. I mean, it's.
As far as Springfield is concerned, do you pay do the kids pay an admission fee, a dues fee, whatever the case might be?
Essentially how it works. We have a treasurer, Lisa Dahl, that I think some of you are familiar with. She keeps great records. Essentially what happens is I run an independent baseball team, as do the two other coaches of the 10 and 14U.
Mhm.
The families pay our baseball accounts, not my personal account, our baseball accounts, and then I submit. We just did it. We just paid $4,000 to Springfield Township Baseball Association for our spring fees. So
Okay.
we are paying them to rent their fields.
Okay.
Yeah. So between the three teams,
Okay.
we just had our coach.
So
meeting earlier.
you're paying your dues to Springfield Township.
Right now, currently, yes.
The Springfield League.
The dues that were declined by SBL were moved out to Springfield, yes. So we exhausted, honestly, every option to stay here.
Okay, let me just give you another scenario. I've talked to a number of people in the community about this, regarding, and presented the scenario. You got a guy here that's got some baseball teams that decided to pull them out of the Struthers League, take them out to Springfield, pay his dues out there and everything. But practices on Struthers fields and everything. A lot of perception is you pay your dues out there, you play out there. You withdrew from the league, you play out there. So I mean, that's a very valid perception as well as what you're trying to present here, as far as you feel that these kids should be able to play on these fields. Not only that, but some people went so far as to say that you shouldn't even be practicing on our fields. And I'm not saying that that's my take on this. I'm just saying that that's another perspective. I mean, we're talking about Mr. Clyde over there and his concerns. And one of my other concerns as far as Mr. Clyde goes is, he's already putting in, excessive hours. This is not just a matter of, okay, the kids are going to play some games on the field. It's a matter of what kind of strain that puts on the parks. We're talking about preparation of the field. We're talking about when the games are done, who's going to police afterwards and clean up, and that responsibility falls on the back of Mr. Clyde. So in that sense, you can look at this also from the standpoint of it really does put a burden on the park system. So with that said.
Mr. Clyde, I'd be happy to pay your overtime. won't be a problem.
I mean, may I speak?
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Just as a parent, we exhausted all options to stay in Struthers. That's
Okay.
what we wanted.
Okay.
But we wanted a way for our kids to continue playing a sport
Right.
that they loved.
Right.
So we didn't go to Springfield because we wanted to go to Springfield. That was the only option we had to keep our kids playing.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm a big picture kind of guy. All right. I look at the big picture and what works in the big picture. So I looked on the Struthers Baseball League website. I looked on the Springfield Baseball League website, and here's a couple of things that they do that they say as far as what the purpose, what is this all about? Is this just about kids playing baseball? And I don't think it is.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not. As far as the Struthers site, to develop skills to instill a high sense of sportsmanship, honesty, loyalty, and respect for authority to direct boys and girls toward good citizenship. Springfield site, our main objective is to present to them the ideals of good sportsmanship, honesty, loyalty, courage, and respect for others, so they may be well-adjusted, stronger, and happier children, and will grow to be good, decent, healthy, and trustworthy citizens. You yourself said right at the very beginning, find a way to make it work. Putting this burden basically on council and how we're going to deal with this. I've spoke with the president of the Struthers Baseball League, and I presented him a number of scenarios. What if they wanted to use the fields up there? What if they joined back in with the Struthers Baseball League and you joined the Springfield Baseball League under the banner of the Struthers Baseball League? He said that there are a number of open-minded people on the board that they would take that under consideration. So, big picture, the Struthers Baseball League has been a good partner for Struthers since the mid-50s. I mean, they've been in existence for that long. It's good for Struthers, it's good for the community. Everybody being under the same banner is just good. I mean, these kids go to the basketball games, and you got the kids that are involved in your league, they're standing in one place, and you got the kids that are involved in Struthers baseball in another place. These are Struthers kids. They should all be interacting together. So big picture, I look at it as find a way to make it work, go back to the Struthers Baseball League and talk to them. I am certain that you will be able to find a way. They have the fields, so they've got the concession stands. the financial resources stay in Struthers instead of spending $4,000 and spending it out in Springfield Township. You're spending it here in Struthers on us.
Absolutely.
You know, so I mean, that's where I'm at right now as far as all of this is concerned. You know, contacting Mr. Boyles, is that
Yes.
what his name is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a really good relationship with Ray. He
Okay.
actually called me a week ago to try to successfully recruited me. I'm coaching at SBL. I'm coaching
Okay.
my daughter's team
Okay.
at SBL. This is not a divide that is, I don't think this divide is quite what it's being made out to be. The last conversation I had with Ray personally about the matter, he and I both agreed that it's okay to coexist. That's he and I had a mutual agreement. I had asked at the last meeting I said, can we not have two types of registration where if you want to play Little League rules, sign up over here, and if you want to play the more advanced version of the game, sign up over here. I was told no. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
we tried all that.
Okay, well, I spoke with him
I'll
on
try
the
again.
phone just a couple days ago,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
he said that he is open-minded to this, and that he has a number of people on the board that are open-minded as well. I think that's where the answer is at. It's like putting this burden on council, or on the parks. Seems like I don't know that that's the answer. I see that the big answer to this solution is with the Struthers Baseball League. I mean, they've got the facilities, they have everything you need. I mean, it
I
only
totally
makes
agree with
sense.
you.
Okay.
We've been down that road, and it was very turbulent.
We tried.
Okay.
I
Well, I know
mean,
past
I
people that have been involved there. That they've got some new people, and in talking to Mr. Boyles, it's like, I feel that as you put it, find a way to make it work. You want to lead these kids and show them citizenship and everything. Demonstrate how you can make something like this work, even in difficult times. Because that's the kind of behaviors that I think are important to be modeled. It's not a matter of how to steal second base or when it's appropriate to steal second base. But these are the types of things that these kids need to learn. Not necessarily, oh well, I don't like the way things are done here, I'm going to go somewhere else.
And believe me, that was not. Yeah, I can see how without being a part of the entirety of the process that you could look at it that way. But I would kind of counterpoint that with, so our group did it last year, and this fall, after the meeting with the new board that's there now, 2 other teams left.
Okay.
I think people, it's not just our small group anymore that's seeing that what's being offered elsewhere is just a more comprehensive experience than what's being offered in Struthers.
Right.
There were no Struthers Baseball League boys working out through SBL in winter gyms. It wasn't offered anymore.
Okay.
There were no Struthers Baseball League boys that played fall ball.
Is it because there's animosity between the 2 different leagues?
Again, if there was animosity to the extent that people are trying to make that out to be, I think there's animosity between parents of teams.
Sure.
But I work just fine with Ray.
But
Ray reached.
yeah,
I'm coaching in that league.
I think the combination would actually make the Struthers League stronger.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it would be ideal for them to pick up games in other communities other than playing 20 games in Poland.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
we tried that. And we're told that that's not happening.
Okay.
They had no interest in. We got out of that league into the current league, and were there for a year, the COVID year, and went well. And then another part of the difficulty of playing in that league through SBL is bridges were burned with other leagues. I mean, I'm just, that's really not worth going too far down.
Jimmy, can we clarify something?
Sure.
real quick?
Absolutely.
You said put the burden on council.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that we asked you guys to come here tonight. When we heard about this issue, because we wanted you to speak, we wanted you to say your side, because there's a bunch of information out there that we just don't know, right? But council itself, this is really not a councilmatic issue. I wanted to air everything out. If you have problems, you're more than welcome to come down here and tell them, because this is our community. And we're not, if these are issues that we can't help with, everybody at this table will help.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this isn't our decision regardless. We asked you to come here and speak because this is a public forum
Right.
and you can be heard here, right? But council as a whole has no dog in this fight, and John, correct? This is an administrative issue. Mr. Benson, the Safety Service Director, oversees all departments, including Mr. Clyde's. That is part of administration. So I just didn't want to think that, everybody to think that putting this burden on us to make a decision. We don't have a decision.
Sure.
We just extended you the respect to come down
And
here
we
and
appreciate
be
that.
heard.
We do.
I just want to clarify
Appreciate
that.
that.
At the end of this meeting, there's nothing that
Sure.
a council as a whole can vote on or not vote on.
Understand.
It's not our department.
But it is a shame that a Struthers team cannot play home games.
Yeah.
And to not, at the risk of twisting your words, please don't think that's what I'm trying to do. But what I'm hearing is, in order to play on our public field, you gotta sign up through the private entity. And I just don't feel like that's right. That doesn't seem to, if you wanna play on our public field, you gotta sign up as private SBL.
I'll be honest, I see your point, 100%, and I see the gray area here. I really do, because these are Struthers kids that have access. That you live in this community, you have access, it's a public park.
Yes.
And I do,
And these boys from Struthers, all of them.
correct, and I see that, and I do see the other side of it, that you pay dues in a Springfield league, and I could see that side of it too.
We didn't want to.
I understand, I completely
That
understand.
money was, it's very, Dallas, I don't want to cut you off. It's very important for me to stress this, because a lot of people overlooked that. That was what we offered that money to SBL at the beginning of the spring. We were handled immaturely by a lot of adults throughout our entire experience in the spring. And then we still offered it at the beginning of the fall and were declined. And Ray was there at that time. It's not solely Ray's decision. There's 10 people on the board.
No.
And there was a lot of backlash and we were told we're no longer renting this facility. And again, to go back to SBL now is to backtrack. It's not.
What was your main reason for not wanting to rent it to you again at all? Because didn't they have an adult thing going on?
Yeah, they
too?
did, they had a
Well,
softball league.
honestly, my brother's team was allowed to rent it, and mine wasn't.
It was personal
At,
issues.
at the same
At
time?
the same time, it was
Correct.
personal issues.
So why all of a
Personally.
And
sudden?
it went so poorly that my brother didn't try to rent it again this year. He's playing in Springfield because we were treated better by the people of Springfield than we were the people that were running our local league.
So I think obviously the issues you guys have is maybe it's with them, and you gotta work it out with them over there, because
Yeah,
you know
and-
what? They should be able to let you do that, because they have enough fields down there, they have enough time. They obviously don't have enough teams to fill them fields every day either, so.
And forgive me, I don't know your name.
I'm
sir.
Rick Bass.
I apologize, Mr. Bass. The first thing we did was offer that money to Struthers Baseball League. That's the very first thing we did, and we've done it again since then. If you guys can tell them, hey, I mean, it's too late for spring. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is not an
Well,
option for this
again,
spring.
I want to reiterate this, that Struthers Baseball League is a
Private entity, absolutely.
private entity, we hold no sway.
I don't mean tell them, that's the wrong, forgive
Yes,
me.
no, I understand.
If you can convince them to take our money that we've offered, we're all for that. We told them it's not happening.
I'll be honest with you, I mean, I personally, years ago, Danny will tell you, I've coached in that league for years.
Yes.
And it slowly declined, and it did go down there. And I
Because
don't know
Rick
why.
was a coach for years.
I'm done, believe me. That's one reason I got out, is because of people that were in there,
Yeah.
okay? I mean, I got out of coaching, I'm like, good, bye, you don't wanna,
This is about last year.
because listen, they need to come and talk to you about this, because you know what, if they're gonna make money on you, obviously they had issues
Yeah.
funding money down there too for everything.
It baffled us
I
as well.
remember that
It
way
did.
back in the day, you know, with the telephone pole getting hit and insurance and everything else.
And then a year later, they're calling me to coach a girls' team.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what?
They need
Can I
need
say one
to,
more thing, please, really quickly?
Yes.
I feel like, we've come to this position, this is where we're at. We
Sure.
felt like we exhausted all of our options with SBL. And I want to reference back to what I said before. Like, there's 2 youth football organizations that exist within this community.
Right.
What's the problem with 2 baseball ones? But that's where we're
Well,
at.
I think big
That's where we're
picture
at.
wise, I see it that, having one entity that's working, I mean, you don't have a league. You
It's
are not a
growing.
private
There are
enterprise.
I did say in our meeting in the summer that if that's what it took to be recognized to play at Monty, we would do that.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows.
Okay.
If that's what you want from us,
You would do what, Mr. Bradley?
we
Become a
would
league.
formally establish ourselves, go through whatever the process of the paperwork was. We would make ourselves a non-profit league.
Okay.
The reason we don't do that is I'm not trying to compete with Struthers Baseball League.
Yeah.
I'm really not. We're not. That's not.
Well,
our
I mean,
intent.
in a sense, you are.
We're not.
Well,
we're trying to
but you are.
we're trying to coexist with them.
Coexist.
You know,
But coexisting.
When I offer you $4,000 and you decline it, I don't look at it as we're in competition.
But
We're-
you also can take kids away from their league.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
they could decide to come over if that's what they want.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
I
thing
think
that
the
always
decision-
But it-
the
I think
decision
we're-
not to take the money into rent has come after a lot of issues and a lot of past history where authority was not respected at all.
I want to make sure I'm
Things were went
understanding
against.
right.
So it's not like they just said, oh, we're not renting to you, we don't like you. It was after issue after issue after issue.
None of which had anything to
Okay
do
with
with
it now?
children. I mean, all I've heard the entire time. You know,
Yeah,
This whole thing is about parents not being able to coexist with each other.
Yeah,
It's not about the kids at all.
we gotta focus on
That's
kids.
what
You're
I'm-
100% correct. The
that's
issues
what I'm-
Kathy's referring
That's what I
to.
think I'm most irritated about with this whole entire situation, if I may say this, is that all of these kids want to play this sport. They all want to play, whether it's whatever advanced it is or not advanced or whatever. Nobody's technically putting the kids first here because you guys aren't coexisting. You're not. Nobody
And
is.
Struthers football, the little Wildcats and little Hardhats, probably in hindsight, wasn't the best thing to do.
Probably not.
And I
So
think
why do you,
and that
why do you want to
started
repeat what,
I
you know what I
don't.
mean? If you look at it, because Wildcats doesn't have hardly any Struthers kids.
No.
And so what do we do?
And I think that's
When I-
starting
Tore
to
our
be the
community
same
apart
thing.
by doing
Exactly.
that.
When
And
you guys are
parents
saying
just get
taking
along.
kids away from the league, you don't have a league. You play in the Springfield League.
Yes.
And if people choose to leave the Struthers League for the Springfield League, that was their choice. You don't have your own league currently
We do not.
that you are recruiting people.
Absolutely not.
Okay, okay. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to.
No.
Just the
Ray
team.
had
They just want their kids to play in Struthers.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I know. I can't.
And that's why you guys got.
I think Mr. Burnside
Yeah.
said taking people away from
Yeah.
the league.
It is.
I just wanted to reiterate, they don't have a league,
No.
But they have
correct?
the option to do that.
They have the option to do what? Start a league.
Create a
No,
league.
they have options
Yes.
for the kids to go to that.
No, the parents have an option to let their kids play.
Right.
where
Play
they
in a
want to.
different league. That's all. They're not.
Or play on their team.
the younger groups
Yeah.
that are, you. I don't
Please.
wanna- yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
Mr. Benson, please.
Mr. Benson?
I'm thinking of Bob Benson. Bob, I'm sorry.
Let me interject something here.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And this is what I need to say to Mr. Bradley.
Okay.
You have a lot of people on your side. You have a lot of parents on your side. The board is voted on by the people that go to the meetings for the Struthers Baseball League. If you're not happy with the board, take your people, vote in the people that you want to vote in, so you all can get along. If you put your people on that board that agree with your ideas and your situations and your rules of playing ball, if you can vote those people into the board, then you're going to be in a lot better spot than you are now.
If
And
I,
don't you agree with me?
I agree with you, and I can
What-
tell you that, Mr. Cloud, I was on the board for 4 years, and we did that, and we made that happen. We expanded the fall. We did all those things, and you know, coaching. The way we coach is a little bit different. You know, we got a lot. When what time is it? We have a meeting for a fundraiser for Rowan Sweeney at 8 o'clock. We have to leave pretty soon. I mean, we go all into everything,
Right.
and you
Yeah,
know,
and I think we're maybe getting a little off topic here, and I wanted to recognize, is it Mr. Cox?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Cox.
Yeah, thanks. Michael Cox,
Yes.
45 Lakeshore Drive, I get mine is 285 Sexton,
Okay.
I believe you live at 289.
I used to, yeah.
You a mailman?
Your neighbor.
Yeah.
So, I was asked by Matt to come.
Yes.
Be present. I was in the meeting that Mr. Clyde and the mayor, Mr. Cohen Miller and Matt, we were all in last
Mhm.
fall. And I clearly understood all the reasons for no games, practice. We did make it work, I think, with one little blip that we got worked out, and misunderstanding, and we made it work from that point. I just want to bring to light, I know council really doesn't have a whole lot of say in this, but I do want to have bring to light to council that at that time a year ago, there was talk, I believe, of possibly expanding parking at
Yes.
Monty Park.
Yes.
And one of the things I was talking to Matt about was, look, we're 6 months away from what he's asking for, what we're kind of asking for. And all I'm pointing out is, if there's another reason to expand parking, which could then allow possibly more games with a couple sports teams, that you have opponents coming, you have people coming from Crestview and Springfield that are like, man, I love Elton Pizza, or I heard that Pizza Joe's is good, or I need to stop at Dollar General on the way. I mean, it's really an economic boost to the city by having between two teams games in, right?
Absolutely,
and it would be to expand parking. So my understanding was a year ago when we were asking last minute, parking's a problem. I understand. We're now 6 months away. The possibility of expanding parking, which would then allow this to work much better, and then the city would really get a lot of economic benefit out of it as well.
Yeah.
So I can't be here without pointing that out, which is my
Sure,
thoughts.
sure.
Right?
I mean, working at up at the baseball fields at Davis Field, it would be the same thing. You know,
It would.
You
Now,
know, people are going to be coming in from out of town. They could go to the Elton. They could go to any of these places.
Very true.
Right.
And I know that this has already kind of gone over, but there's a lot of things that these a year before we were kind of asked, hey, here's something to think about. We didn't go with them last year. I don't want to really give too much of my personal things, but after the spring, we decided, and with my son, who only has one opportunity to have a baseball experience, and I am the biggest Struthers person you'll ever meet, but we chose to go on this team that just so happens to have to play in Springfield. We wanted to make sure that our kids played a variety of teams.
Sure.
I don't want to get too much into it, but last year we played Poland, Struthers, Poland, Struthers, Poland.
Okay.
Right? And now they got away from that. Then they went to this setup, Struthers Baseball League did, and then they got away from that. And then it's back to Poland. Right?
Okay.
In fact, I think the one Struthers team had no home games. All their games were in Poland. They signed up for Struthers Baseball. They didn't play one home game in Struthers. So there's some issues. There's a reason why you have two teams now full of parents and kids that are choosing these teams.
I understand that.
And that are willing to drive to Springfield to play baseball. But really all they're asking is, it'd be nice to have some home games at Monty if it could all be worked out. That's all anybody's asking for.
Right.
I think of this way is, boy, if there was added parking, it'd be nice to be able to, between Manor, between the lower lot, between the main lot, between asking some of the people, hey, park on the street, whatever, you would have an abundance of people coming in. It'd be a little stimulus to the city, I think. It's a beautiful park, right? Mr. Clyde has done a great job with it. It can only help people's views of our city, right? I mean, it's all in all, it's a win.
Right.
So I'm just pointing out the advantages of possibly, if it's on the fence, of adding that parking. So this is what you could have, and that's just for this year. Let alone possibly what could be in the spring next year and then fall. And from
Well, and to add to that, I'm sorry, Captain. Our vision has been to expand that park the whole time, and we have talked about putting numerous different things in there that would be new and a benefit to the community. So everything you're saying makes perfect sense.
And we have grant writers working on that now. So it's not anything that's gonna happen overnight, and I think we've talked about that then. But this is a process, and everybody here at the table knows that we have a parking issue there. In the past, we didn't have the pavilion, we didn't have the hall, so it was easy just to say, go play a game. So in the past, there was no problem with parking. Now there is. We have other things for the community to do there besides for the baseball field. So
But the parking works with the girls,
movie
on
nights,
the girls softball end?
they have no other option. The park,
No, it
because
doesn't.
it doesn't.
It's a matter of putting up
It's still an issue with that too, and that's why he has to stand in the middle of the
girls
street.
pay to play there?
No,
No.
they take care of the
So-
field, they maintain it, that's their
we would
home,
happily do
that's
as
their only field.
Question: if you got to play like 2 or 3 games in Struthers, would you still have to pay that full $4,000 at Springfield?
That's for
It's not as much in the fall. It doesn't cost that much. I have a really strong relationship with the Springfield president.
I'm just curious.
I can't answer. The Springfield president would be, I don't want to speak for him, you know what I mean? He and I negotiate that. my assumption would be, I mean, he doesn't charge us for the jerseys because we buy our own jerseys. So I would assume if I were to tell him that, hey, you know, we're going to play a few games in our community this year, that number would go down.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many fields do we have at Davis?
4.
3 that our kids would be eligible to play on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we're all in agreement. Best case scenario, you're back in Struthers. I
Yeah,
think we all want
absolutely.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to see our community
Yeah.
going out of town
For sure.
for anything. I understand your position 100%, but I think best case scenario is figuring out how to get you back here in one way or another.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I would be more than willing to help you talk to Mr. Boyles
Yeah,
or the board
he's fine.
or anything in advocating to make this work. Make that partnership work so that you guys are happy and your kids and your parents are all happy, and it's just a better fit for the community. It's just a better fit for, you know, all in all, just playing the games up there as opposed to putting the burden
Yeah.
on the park.
Which is why we tried that. We tried that.
So I will give you my phone number, and I will be more than happy to help you in any way that I can
Yeah,
to
it is a
to
shame
make
that
that
they
happen.
won't allow you, I mean, it's just a shame.
We've
that
offered
we
twice.
would not
Especially for
keep that in our
Struthers kids.
community.
We've offered
I
that.
don't understand
Absolutely.
We offered that, I do want to make clear, we offered that to the old board in spring, we offered it to the new board in fall, and it was shot down both times. The secondary, or perhaps even tertiary element to this that is out of all of our hands, you know, Mike kind of tried to detail for you it was a 3-year process to get out of the Poland agreement into an actual league.
Mhm.
And 1 year after accomplishing that, that decision was undone, and it was undone in a very ugly fashion with
Okay.
I wasn't even a part of it, but what I can tell you is you're also, the part that we don't have any control over is how the presidents of those 9 other communities, it took us we had to prove that we were a quality enough program to join this league, okay? And then we got right out of it, and now all those other 9 presidents of those other leagues also need to be convinced, if we were to go back to Struthers Baseball League, that it's going to be, hey, we begged you to let us in for 3 years, you did, then we left it with our middle fingers up at you, but can you take us back? That's you don't have control over that, Ray doesn't have control over that, I don't have control over that,
Sure.
and that's a big gamble for our boys.
Okay. All right, but as you said from the very beginning, let's find a way to make this
For
work.
sure.
And I will try to help. And I'm a mental health counselor. I do family counseling. I do couples counseling.
Sound
You
like
know,
a car
so-
salesman, Jimmy.
I gotta stress you, Mr. Ballock, Ray and I are fine.
Yeah, no, I mean just with Ray. I mean
You know,
with the whole board. I mean, you know, if it's a matter of
you need
maybe some mediation in there to help out to make this happen. I mean, because big picture wise, that's the best solution
yeah,
to
and
this.
if we can rent off of them,
Yeah.
then that's what we tried to do multiple times. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
You know, I want to stress to you, everyone here. That's why we're here. We were declined by that.
If I could jump in one last time. I know, Mr. Clyde, you said, hey, get somebody on the board voted in and get what you want. And that is fabulous. But to do that, then to get the board people on your, and then to get it to where you want, that's a couple years away.
Your kids will be done
His
playing.
kids, 11.
It took us
He's
3
got
years.
1 year left. My kid's 9. I mean, I got 3 years left, right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, this is like he's a different team than my team. But it's what his hard work and all of their hard work did, which laid the foundation for the group that came together that my kid's on. And it's been a great experience. And I love Struthers baseball. I grew up playing Struthers baseball. I've talked to Matt about, man, it would be great if we could make this work at some point.
Right.
But for the fall, it's never going to happen. I don't care if the greatest negotiator in the world came in. It's still not going to happen in the fall for us.
Okay.
Unless,
That's
I guess,
not the
unless somehow.
impression that was given.
Well,
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, we've kind of covered what we wanted to cover tonight, so I think we'll have to wrap this up right now and move on to the next order of business for this committee.
We do appreciate it, and we
Okay.
Appreciate you.
hope maybe a small amount of games can be entertained.
Whoever would like to help get a field, wherever.
I'll give you my phone
that'd be
number.
great.
I have your phone number. I'll give you a call.
All right.
All right,
You guys
if there's any
were
way I
both
can help
very
you out,
well
I will.
spoken
Thank you.
tonight. I
Yeah.
I
appreciate
had
you
a
coming
big,
down.
I had a pop.
Nah, it was all right. You did good.
I don't know how
Yeah.
you
You
guys
guys all
You
did
were
good.
great. You were great.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it, you bet.
guys.
You bet.
Yeah, I don't think it's that newsworthy, to be honest with you.
Matt, it's honestly, again, there's a way I can help them. Okay, I'm not, you know.
Whoever the top four.
Yeah, appreciate it, you know.
You guys.
If you need me to come with him, I will.
Yeah. I just want to feel it, that's all.
Yes, no, I get it, and.
I'm sorry, miss. I'm sorry.
I'll talk for him.
I gotta go now, so you do the interview kind of
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill. Let's go.
Thank you, everyone.
Lori, can you do my makeup?
Okay.
Powder?
Yeah.
Where?
Can we go in the hallway?
Yeah, real quick.
Well, not Dallas.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, okay.
And an older sister, and an older brother, and I was the youngest.
Oh, okay, okay. Yep. All right.
Well, first don't we have to close the meeting?
You've grown, Mike.
Yeah.
You only need 2 votes to close the
Hey,
meeting.
hey.
Alright.
Oh, no, we got more of the meeting, though.
Dallas, you're not done.
Our meeting's not done.
Yeah, the meeting is
Not
done.
done.
So I can't walk away from it?
Oh, if you.
I mean,
Hurry up,
shoot.
just do your interview.
Oh, okay. No, Mr. Clyde. Tonight, Mr. Clyde wanted to speak on behalf of, well, I'll just read it. An ordinance adopting the rules and regulations governing the rental and use of the Struthers Multipurpose Center and made part of Struthers Codified Chapter 959, Monty Park, Section 959.01 Struthers Multipurpose Center, and repealing ordinance number 21052 and any ordinance inconsistent herewithin and declaring an emergency. Mr. Clyde, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Ballack.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you all know me. I'm very passionate about what I do at the park. I love my job. I put the time in to make the meeting room a special place for everybody that comes to Struthers, to rent it and to spend time there. And in the recent past, within the last 6-8 months, we had some damage at the park through decorations that was above and beyond anything I've ever seen before. Unfortunately, we had the unfortunate circumstance of having a water main break, and we lost a lot of the hall. All the carpeting, drywall. I mean, it was a horrible mess the week before Christmas. So, we spent all this money, $25,000, to be able to get the hall back in shape. Painted, new floor, new moldings, everything. The only thing I haven't got done yet is the back room, well baby, in my office, but we're working on that now. I have bids. And my concern is this. My concern is that there is no other facility in the 3-county area that lets decorations be smashed upon the walls of their hall. Because of the fact that no matter what we've done and no matter what we've tried, damage happens to the paint. Damage happens to the drywall. We've tried tacky. They've tried, they come to the park, we tell them they have to use tacky. They don't even know what tacky is. All of a sudden you've got masking tape. All of a sudden you've got 3M strips. All of a sudden you've got packing tape. You've got masking tape. Go to take that stuff off the wall, it takes the paint right with it. All of a sudden I've got a repair to do. And it's not that I do the repairs. You have to call a professional in to make sure everything looks right. I'm not a drywall. I'm not a fantastic painter, although I can touch up a little bit here and there. So, after we've done all this work, the hall is just gorgeous. It really is. And the more I thought about it, the more I said, well, let me check into some things here and find out exactly what my proof is. My proof is this. Between Boardman Park, between Mill Creek Metro Parks, between Yellow Creek Park, let me read you their stipulations.
I checked all of them out too, that they're not allowed to have nothing on the walls.
It says decorations shall not be fixed in a manner that will cause damage to the facility. No decorations are permitted to be affixed to the walls, The permit holder shall be responsible for removing all decorations and other paraphernalia and clearing of tables after the event. This is the best part. The use of confetti, nails, staples, tacks, water balloons, silly string, glitter, and tape with any strong adhesibility is not permitted. So, we do a service for our citizens. We charge our citizens $200 to rent the hall for 6 hours. Non-residents, $225. We just raised the price. You cannot walk into any other facility, Yellow Creek, $500 to walk in the door. It's a $100 deposit, non-refundable, and $400 with $80 an hour for 5 hours minimum. Before you even get out of the car, it's $500. So in a facility like Yellow Creek or anything in the metro parks, if they don't permit having possible damage to their walls, why should we? Especially after we've made all these improvements. And I can say to you honestly, I have made more improvements to that hall, not I, we have made more improvements to that hall with the help of the auditor's office, with the mayor, and with council. More improvements than my predecessors combined in what I've done in the last 7 years. With new ceramic tile, remodeling of the bathrooms, remodeling of the kitchen, new granite countertops, brand new roof, brand new roof on the pavilion.
Garage.
26 by 26 garage. These are the things that I've done.
I was on Parks and Rec for a while.
I take so much pride in that place. That's why that I feel that this ordinance should be changed. I can go back and charge them. Now, as I said that, the problem that we have with that now is that when we instituted Bookio, they were supposed to book their reservation with a credit card.
Right.
That gave me the teeth that if there was damage done to the hall, we could send them a bill on their credit card. With no credit card, if I send the bill for $150, are they going to pay it?
Right, so what are you saying though, Bob? I thought it was my understanding that all of our bookings had to be paid with credit card.
No.
They've suspended the use of
Why?
the credit card in the
Why?
hall.
Because we're charging people $12.60 to run their card, and
Why are we doing that?
I don't know, I didn't
You
set
could-
up the program.
You could easily get a squared account that
We
charges.
have
That's
a
what this is.
We have a
that's-
square.
I paid 2% on my squared account. I don't know why
I'm
that
just
would
telling you
be.
it's not working right, so there's bugs that are being worked out.
But I think then to me, Bob, the issue is
And
working
that's
out
what the
those
pay
bugs
is, not
and getting these people to
this.
only pay with a credit card so that we do have those teeth.
Well, no, they don't have to pay with the credit card.
They have to leave it on file.
Register one on
They
file.
have to register
We're
the
talking about
card on
choosing
file,
things.
yes.
Okay, so
So
is it
that's-
still like that?
No, it's not. I'm having bookings now, the last bookings I've gotten last month and a half have no credit cards associated with the account. Because we have suspended the use of the credit card at this time because Christie
Well,
was
that's
having
right.
problems.
That should be even offline, that should be required, period.
Yeah, I would agree.
Whether it's,
So what could be
whether
the
you do it
problem
online or
though,
not.
for a month and a half that the credit cards don't work, or do we know where we stand? Why are we not?
I don't have an
Originally,
answer.
when the credit cards were hitting the bank, we were not getting the required amount of money, okay? So it was to be adjusted so that whatever the fees charged,
It's
that
over
we
and
don't see, they go straight to the company, that we would still get our $200, because the $200 rental, I'm getting $190.
Okay.
Okay, so they're adjusted. Well, now we're getting, charging these people almost $13 to run a credit card. That's not right either, right? So then the company's taking part of their money, and I'm getting $206.13. I got no mechanism to take that fee. The way I have to report stuff to the state is categorized by what it is. So, all right, well, you guys need to authorize me to collect a fee. I can't just collect a fee out of nowhere. I mean, there's consumer laws.
But there's other
So,
credit card companies.
I'm not the one that set it up. You're talking to the wrong person, okay?
So who set it up?
You'd have to ask the mayor. I'm not sure how that got set up.
Okay.
So
But
I
But I'm
have
just
brought
saying,
this
I'm just
up.
saying in general,
I
there's
brought
other
this up
credit card
once or
companies.
twice a week for the past, since we implemented it. trying to get it worked out. There's a bunch of bugs. Everybody involved is working to get it mitigated. We
And
just
that's-
haven't got there yet. I don't know what the
That's
problems
kind
with
of like how
Square or what it
if
is.
you're not on your home ATM, they charge you a fee to use it.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure,
anywhere.
but it needs to be.
But you still take out $100. You don't take out $103.
Right. But you get,
We are seeing that $3. We're not just seeing the $100.
well,
We're
you're
now
getting
seeing
the $3 too.
yes.
So
that's-
like on a rental, I get, it's a $200 rental, I'll get $206.10 now, okay? Before I wasn't getting all the 200, now I'm getting too much. I
And
have
nobody
no
can answer that for
mechanism.
you?
The person who set it up isn't here, and it hasn't.
They
been
are
rectified.
they have actively, been making adjustments to try to make it work, okay? So, for now, I ask that they stop until we can figure out how to get it right. Or if council decides that they want to say, we're gonna charge this fee, and I have a mechanism to receipt it in, because right now I have no right to collect it.
Well, I mean, that fee seems crazy. It's 6.5%.
Exactly, that's why I asked them to stop using it until we get it figured out.
And that's why I'm glad Chrissy was here, because we needed an answer to that. We needed a reason why that they're not using the credit cards anymore.
Well,
But
when
I
I
mean-
asked them to stop using it, they got the reason, and I've been asking about it to anybody that I've talked to the mayor several times about it.
It's just
Me and Michelle deal with it
Yeah,
daily.
I don't know how
Yeah.
it's set up on your end, but I've owned numerous Square accounts for numerous businesses. I've never had an issue. It's usually 2.5% of any charge that's charged. I don't.
I couldn't answer you because I have nothing to do with it.
Okay, we're talking about Bookie
Square.
and Square.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The issue.
What's the deal, Pat?
I think we have to work something out, because I think they're getting charged an extra fee
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's what you're saying.
So I think we put it on pause until we figure out what's going on.
And that's what I brought up to council, because I needed something to use to be able to take care of my damage at the hall when there's damage done at a party.
But we do still have their information. Like, we have their email information, we have their name, we have their phone number, we have their address. So if there's damage, but no one has a credit card. That's where, like,
Do
we
they
have
sign-
elderly
do they
people
sign a
renting that
contract?
don't have
Do
a
they sign
credit
a
card,
date?
and
You
that
can't
was
rent anything without
Yes.
a credit card these days. You can't
Well,
rent a
then it's a breach of
hotel.
contract.
You can't go to rental corral
Well,
and rent a
right?
drill.
Don't do that.
And we've sent them a bill in the past and got nothing in return.
But they can be sued for that though, see how
That's true. That's very true.
Are we going to go through that amount
Yeah,
of
let's-
litigation?
This is
Okay,
what
let's-
we're talking about.
Needless to
though.
say,
Okay.
needless to say, my whole point about this is that I just feel that not need to have these decorations plastered all over the wall with tape marks and pinpoint marks and everything else after we've done all this work. Now, I
agree.
one more thing before I go. I know I'm taking up too much time, but we had a situation this weekend, okay, that we had a renter come in, and I told them a week ahead of time, no decorations on the wall. They come in, they insisted that they were going to use tacky and everything else, and everything was going to be okay. And I still balked, and I still said, no, I really don't want anything on the wall. Well, what she did was she pulled out a copy of the ordinance, and she showed it to me. And she says, right here in the ordinance, it says I can use tacky on the wall. At this point, I had no choice. I had to say, yes, go ahead, all right? Well, here's what happened. We went in Saturday night to clean, and not only there's marks on the wall from the tacky, but there's tape on my baseboards, there's tape on my fireplace, there's pinpoint holes in the wall from push pins. And the best part about it all is that one of our employees. Now, if we can't get our employees to follow the rules, how am I going to get the general public to follow the rules without something in the ordinance to state that this is the way it's got to be?
I agree, but hang on one sec.
Yes, sir.
That is the ordinance. Isn't it also the ordinance that we have to have a credit card on file to rent it? We did pass that, correct?
I think that was reasonable.
But we're operating that out of ordinance.
Well, no, we
Yeah.
I don't know.
because we
So
had to
that,
put it
because
on
that is the root of this problem.
Well,
I-
you could,
But we
they could say we want the credit card information in case there's damage,
Right,
and
but-
then not allow them to use it as a payment. I never said don't take any of their information. I just
No,
asked
I understand
that
that.
we stopped
but
it until it gets figured
what
out.
I'm saying is our ordinance states that, and I remember you coming to us, that they had to use booking and have a credit card on file for just these instances.
Yes.
And now we're having an issue with the credit card company,
Yes.
so we're just operating out of ordinance. That,
So you should have a credit card regardless, whether it's through
Yeah,
booking
booking or
online,
not.
as I said, doesn't make any sense.
I
They
agree.
shouldn't have to give you that credit card
I
that's
agree.
one.
before
Two,
they get the haul.
my solution to this, Bob, I'll be honest. People want to decorate when they rent a place, right? And I don't want to cause you any more work. You take great care of the place. My solution was, they make those little hooks. Put them a couple strategic places, each side of the door. Let them hang things just from those. They're going to blend in there. This way, there's no tape, there's no damage other than
But you know
a
what?
happy birthday banner.
But you know what, Del? There's so many other opportunities and so many other things that they can do for decorations. They can do balloon stands, they can do easels, they can do tabletops, they can do any kind of centerpieces they want.
Sure.
Why does it have to be on the wall? Also, I was also suggested about hanging things from the ceiling. We have suspended ceilings at the hall. It's not strong enough to even accompany hooks that you would put there.
Right.
You could pull a whole ceiling down. I can't tell you how many ceiling tiles I've replaced in the last 2 years.
Sure.
Those things are $300-400 a case. And I replace 6, 7, 7, 8 tiles at a time because they've stuck stuff up there.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why,
I want to.
Bob, that's why I
Yes.
thought of basically fixed hooks, fixed hanging things that you put up. That literally you're hanging a happy birthday with a string around it on the hook, easy to take down,
Del?
nothing like that.
Okay, you know, those are possible options, but what we're talking about here is this something that we want to adopt into the ordinance, and that is what Bob wants, you know, what he is suggesting, and that is, you know, language to include that there is no.
It'll never be enough,
I have a
Del.
question. I have a question.
Believe me, it'll never be enough.
Well, I guess, Jim, what I'm trying to do here
Paint is on the walls
is
there.
go over the ordinance,
Yeah,
that
is
maybe
it
it can be
semi-gloss or
modified
is
to
it-
accommodate
Because like
everybody.
semi-gloss is usually.
Satin.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's
but-
all. I mean, my conversation is still pertaining to the ordinance that we
Right.
have here. I just feel like maybe there is a happy medium where don't damage the walls, don't put tape on them, don't do any of that. You know, if you were decorating a hall, people put stuff at the door,
Sure.
each side of the door. You know, certain places.
Put little hooks
Maggie
there.
said she got
that-
done.
Yeah, and
Hall, and they're
that's
gonna do
something that
that.
could be added in afterwards. But I mean, right now the focus of this is the tape on the walls? Is this something that we want to do or not want to do? I mean, there's other things. You know, Bob can certainly look into down the road and say, I could put some hooks here. I could
I would
do
say
that
as
there.
far as doing that, I mean, as far as X-naying the tape on the wall, and the things that are gonna cause damage, yeah, that should be the order.
Okay, all right.
Can I?
Okay.
Can
I
I?
also feel like we're getting hurried through this meeting. Is there something going on we gotta get out of here quick?
No, I just feel like we're taking a number of tangents here, you know, as opposed to what Bob is here for.
Pertaining.
You know, I mean, you know, that's it.
Can I say one more thing before I go?
Sure.
Okay. I know some of your wives. I know some of you. I don't know all of you guys, but if you have a party at your house, would your wife let you put all kind of tape on the wall?
Absolutely not.
Ronnie, would your wife let?
No way.
Bob, Ricky, no. This is. Guys, this is my house. This is our house.
Yes.
Not my house.
Right. You're right.
This is our house. Let's keep it nice.
I have
I get
a
it.
question for you. Is there anything that you found that goes on the walls that does not damage the walls?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
And you have a
I
pretty
get it,
panel, you could decorate,
and I
like,
would-
you know, put
I would
things
agree
on
with
the
that.
pictures.
My
things
only
like that.
thing that would ring in my
Look at
head
those-
is,
I decorated
I have
for
a
my
quick-
daughter, you just put pictures
that
up
makes me
there.
money the
You
same
don't
way
Oh,
this
like
all
with
does.
frames. You mean?
When I work it,
you don't have to.
sometimes it gets damaged, and I
Could
gotta
we-
fix it.
Could we
Right?
have like
That's cost of doing business.
two poles?
Now, and I
that
wanna
included in
mitigate
the
that as
hall
much
that
as
you
possible
can
for you, Bob,
tape
I
or-
do.
But
I
the
have
whole thing
banner
is this,
too.
Del. I don't have the money
You know,
in
you
my
could put them
budget
far away.
I get it.
for damage
Just
after
set it,
damage
like
after
striped
damage
line
to have a professional come in and fix my walls. I don't.
Right.
Chrissy can't give me that
Well,
money.
But the damage wasn't supposed to be paid out of your budget. The damage is supposed to be paid out of the credit card that they paid the city with, that they are legally liable for the damages on. That, I guess, is my point. You understand? It should be on you to fix it. You're right. You're not a painter,
Bob,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
the last incident that I saw that was extremely bad before the flood and everything was put nicely pristine, were those people charged and in fact pay?
Yes.
They pay that. The system worked then.
We
They were
charged-
charged.
We
got
charged
the money.
their
Sure.
credit card, Chrissy, yes.
So the
So-
issue here is
so-
more the credit card.
So
Hey, Bob.
when
We have,
I agree.
but do
I'm just going off of what I'm.
okay,
in a
but
way,
should we
because-
have? But should Bob have to every other
Yeah.
week
No.
call a painter?
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
that's for extreme cases if something happens.
No, and listen, I've said from the start, I'm all for not putting tape and things that are gonna damage the wall.
hey, Bob, could we have included down there 2 poles like that you could tape a banner to, or tie a banner to?
Oh, sure.
Spread it out?
I'd be willing to do anything.
Well, I mean,
Bob.
just, that's all you would really need.
I guess that's my whole
Anything.
point, Bob. I appreciate that because these people are paying to rent a hall. All right? You're paying money. You should be able to use the facility in a manner that you need without damaging it.
Sure.
But it is our responsibility at that point to put a mechanism in place if we're telling you, well, we want you to be able to decorate, but you can't touch the walls. Well, then it's our responsibility to put something in there that they could utilize without damaging the wall.
But like
Yeah.
you said, is there some kind of contraption we can,
Like this flagpole's a perfect example.
Like you
Without the flags, you could tie a banner to that.
And when people come in, Bob, they're designated to only use these things. I mean, that.
PVC piping, you can make something where people can hang banners.
I've been watching HGTV too
I'm
much.
sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Problem with e-soles or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's what I
mean.
that's all I was asking for.
If the hall could provide
We
that,
could-
that would
we
be
could meet at something.
nice.
I have no problem with that. As long as I can keep our house nice, that's all I care about, guys.
But in
Yes, Ms.
honesty, a lot
The
of people would have to
finish
bring that
of the
to their-
walls is satin. No matter what you put on a satin
It's
wall,
gonna mark.
it's gonna mark.
Yeah.
You need like semi-gloss or something. I know it's your house,
But I
but we need something that's more durable on the walls. I think would help
either
as
way,
well.
we could completely mitigate that and do away with the actual damage from the tape and things like that, no matter what you paint it, by just having a little bit of thought behind a system, such as Bob just pointed out with the 2 flagpoles or something like that. I mean, I'm all for not making you do more work, and I'm all for not letting people damage the facility. But then I think if we're asking them not to decorate on the walls, we need to provide them with a way to decorate.
but I think something like the PVC pipes or poles or something,
Yeah.
that's a good fix. That won't.
And
Just
what
take
about
one
getting
of
some
them away.
easels up there? How
Yeah,
much
I
are
mean-
easels? Easels are cheap, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're not expensive at all.
They're like 12, 13 bucks,
That
aren't
assistant
they?
you got could do anything. Have them make a couple.
Like,
Bring them down some
it's
lumber.
And it's not to the point that
No, don't.
it's more work for me, Dal, believe me. I don't mind doing the work.
No, I know
I
that,
don't.
Bob.
You know that.
Yes,
You know.
and again, my argument.
But it shouldn't happen in the first place.
We're on the same page, 100%. I'm just trying to find a way that we can still be accommodating without destroying the
I
place. That's
understand.
all.
That's fine.
But
It's really easy to say nobody decorate. I'm just trying to find the best way to do it. We still want to get as many rentals as we can.
And
We still don't want you fixing it. We still don't want to pay money every time to fix it.
And we're
And
booked.
like Chrissy said, if it's a $50 fix, are we really charging their credit card? Probably not. It's if there's actual real damage, correct?
No.
$50.
charge of this
Okay.
damage is charged.
Why would
Alright.
you charge
Somebody
that?
has to come
So,
out.
regardless, I mean,
Alright.
this is something that either we're gonna pass or we're not gonna pass.
We
So-
definitely
So
have
do we
to
wanna
pass.
send it over to
Put some
finance and
teeth.
legislation?
It's up to you guys. We could table it and put different things in order. We could pass it as read. I mean, they're
But I think the things like that can be added
without the.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
ordinance, yeah.
Right.
Well then, send it to
Whatever
finance.
you
Okay.
think would
You know,
work.
vote on
Do we
it,
have to
send
take
it.
this credit
Okay.
card out of this ordinance now until it's fixed?
Well, I
No, we
mean,
could still take the,
No, we
credit-
could still
it's
take
just
it.
work. We just have to figure out
We
what
have a
the
couple
glitch is.
bugs to work out.
That's all,
all.
but we could still take the credit card
That's
information.
fine. That's just a
And
question.
Chrissy,
Yeah.
thank you for your expertise on that. I appreciate it. Really, thank you. I did not have an answer
Chrissy,
for that. so-
thanks for that white suit, Jack.
Yep.
Committee.
Love it.
Yep,
I got
need a
two.
motion,
Need
need a motion
I
to
know, I
pass
just-
this over to finance and legislation?
Make a motion.
Second, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
You bet, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
You're the
I
best.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second that motion.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Okay, so I'm going to call this Public Utilities meeting to order. Mr. Carselli?
Here.
Mr. Bernstein?
Here.
Ms. Greenwood here. So our purpose tonight is to discuss the sewer rate study. So I think Guy's here and have you, sorry, we haven't met. Is this who is speaking?
Yes, do you want me to?
Well, I mean, I guess that's what I have no idea. I have this paper. I don't know anything about what's going on. So somebody has to explain it.
Could have pretended a little.
Does everybody have that?
No.
I don't believe we do.
Do we have the ability to put that on a screen?
That, I mean, we can print it.
Or that?
Let me, I can run to my office
I'll
and
go
print
do
it.
that.
You sure? Michelle's gonna print them.
The whole contact? Yeah. None of us have that.
Okay, so these two gentlemen are from the EPD group. This is Dan and Tony. They're gonna explain what the findings were for our sewer rate study. We felt it necessary to go back and look at, just to try to fix some of the things that we got going on down there. So we did a very much more extensive delve into what we have going on. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Good evening. I don't know what's your preference here. You guys more informal, formal? How do you like to roll?
Shoot from the hip.
Shoot from the hip, right?
Yep, shoot
All right.
from the
Well,
hip.
I'm Tony Burgoyne with GPD Group. Right here is my chauffeur Dan Fletcher. Really, what we want to do is just give you a high level of the 2-month effort that we put into a comprehensive rate study looking at the water pollution control and collection system operating funds. All of you have an understanding of the funds here for sewer purposes? No. There are 3 in total. You have an SDO fund, the account 500. You have a debt service fund, 505. And you have a stormwater utility fund, 510. All of those funds are managed together under your sewer utility as your enterprise. And the reason they're tied together is simply because of how your water supply goes to your end users here in the city. You guys have a separate water provider here that sends potable drinking water, and then in turn you guys use meter data from that distributor, from that vendor, to then charge your residents and your customers sewer rates. In addition to that, you also charge a combination of fixed fees and flat fees. Your fixed fees are how much water are you consuming. Your flat fees are the fees associated with your debt service, the 505 fund, and your stormwater surcharge that you have. Right now, today, based on rate ordinances that you passed not too long ago, I think it was 2020, you guys increased rates from $1.66 per 100 cubic feet. 100 cubic feet is equivalent of 748 gallons, to $3.32. So in essence, you double your usage rate. You also incorporated a debt service fee, a flat fixed fee of $3 per property. It's a flat fee you bill every month to everybody, right? That's on the residential side. You also have your stormwater utility fee of $4, thereabouts, $4.50, I think. That's also a fixed fee. In total, your average gallons of consumption for your water users here in Struthers is reported by your vendor is 3,808 gallons per month. That basically, when you include your fixed fees and your usage fees, that's an average monthly bill of $25 per month. Okay? You need to know that. You also have an agreement with Mahoning County, which I'm certain you all know about, right? In which they pay 64.5% of all the expenses that the city pays out. That is inclusive of your operating and your maintenance fees, payroll, as well as your debt service that you pay down over the years. What we know from that study is that if council doesn't do anything to address your sewage disposal fund, the health of that system will be depleted by 2026. And this is assuming the following: escalators for all of your operating, payroll, capital costs, all of your major capital improvements that have been identified by water pollution control over the next 20 years. Those percentage increases that we use in our projections range between 2% to 3.2%, depending on what it is. Your payroll increases over the next 20 years are for your annual OPERS at 14%, what you pay in longevity, all of those standard Medicare costs and the other payroll, basically add-ons that don't change, right, unless something changes with the state. When you look at that, if you do nothing, 2026, you will have 0 funds in your operating balance, okay? That means you have no money to, what did you say before? Somebody said coined it really well. You don't have the ability to take on the IFCOM. You don't have the ability to back charge the county to help pay for those expenses. You have nothing to basically deal with a flood event or an overflow or an issue with polymer charges increasing 25% on average. Just recognize that. You have no basically mechanism today that we can see that helps you save for a rainy day. There is no unrestricted fund in your accounts right now. From an affordability standpoint, I think this is probably the most important thing to you. If you raise rates, what does that mean for end users and your ratepayers today? When we looked at similar sized communities of your population, there are about 10,000 people thereabouts, right? 4,100 user accounts. Struthers ranks lowest out of all of those communities that we surveyed. And
we rank lowest in what our constituents pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, on your
great.
Yeah.
We've always looked at that as great.
The where is this?
Yeah, well, he's saying that's gonna deplete Oliver.
4 years.
The
4 years from now. Yeah.
community comparison is this. With your $3.32 per 100 cubic feet, that's what you pay just for your usage fees. And so we just looked at usage fees. We didn't look at other flat fees or fixed fees, other expenses that other communities also apply, including Mahoning County. The range of what we saw was anywhere from $6.50 on the low end, upwards of $9 per 100 cubic feet on the high end. For comparisons with your neighbors in Poland, they pay $9.20 per 100 cubic feet. Again, I remind you that your customers here in Struthers pay $3.32. The reason why it's important is because this is an enterprise for the city. And if the enterprise if the enterprise or your system cannot be maintained to continue to provide the service that it does, then you lose your enterprise fund. So that's why it's important to, in essence, most communities don't like to be at the bottom. They actually prefer to be right in the middle. What we're proposing to do when we look at water demand over the next 5 years through 20 years, we looked at what your past 6-year history was. And we found that the range from 2026 to 2021 on gallons billed by your vendor ranges from 159 million gallons per year up to 208 million gallons per year. That 208 million gallons, though, that was in 2020. And so we basically credit that as an anomaly for your water consumption because of those stay-at-home orders that we all experienced during the pandemic that result from COVID-19. So when we exclude that 2020 and we look at how do we trend for the next 5 years and then for the next 20 years, we see that your average increase over those past years is about 0.91%. And so for our projections, though, we dialed that down to only 0.1%, assuming that your water consumption over the next, every annual increase is only going to be 0.1% of what you see last year. Make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's how we account for how much of your fixed, or your usage revenue that you would bring in. So when you apply that $3.32 at that growth, 0.1% growth rate over the next few years, you can understand that you're only going to increase your revenue by 0.1% thereabouts, right? Some other things to consider when it comes to water demand. We were not able to get all of the appropriate data necessary to look at the water demand for your tributary areas that come to the water pollution control facility outside of the city's corporation limits. And what I mean by that is, we don't know how many, well, we have an idea of how many specific accounts are in the county that come here, but we do not have an understanding of what their water billability is. And so in terms, we can't figure out whether or not it's a good idea for the city to treat the county as a customer, or if it's a better idea to simply maintain the current contracts that you have with them. But what we did do is we looked at the flow contributions from here, and we looked at dry weather usage. And from the data that we were able to see, it looks as if the county is performing favorably based on the tributary flows coming here. So our recommendation is that we let that county contract lie the way it is. Again, keeping in mind that they pay 64.5% of all of your expenses and your debt service, which you guys utilize quite frequently. I think.
So you did a cost analysis on the two ways?
We couldn't get to the second way. It's a great question. We couldn't get to the second way.
So how are you saying that it's a benefit to keep it how it is if you couldn't analyze both?
Great question. So if we treat the county as a customer for, like you do for the city, right? You're going to be basing it off of what they consume from potable water supply. What we're seeing trending over the past 3 years, from 2019 to 2021, is that dry weather flows tributary to the water pollution control facility are actually trending slightly downward. And so what does that mean? It means two things. Not using as much water, or the county's doing a pretty good job of getting rid of their I&I issues. Also, to arrive at our recommendation of letting the dog lie, is the fact that your 201 plan was just recently revised. You're going to be losing a large chunk of customers of land for your southern end area. The lake is which one?
Hamilton.
Is that the one down there?
Lake Club.
Yeah, that original tributary area that once came to the plant will eventually be eliminated and removed by the construction of the county's 5-point pump station and force main project. And so a lot of that flow, in essence, will go away. And so
also, we fixed a lot of our I&I issues, correct?
We still have.
But we were really experiencing a high influx from the county at one point, and it was because there was damage to our lines, correct? That we were getting inundated with.
Not damage to our lines, it's just inundated. But
Okay.
that's I&I, okay, that's not gallons billed flow as the contract goes by.
Okay.
That's not even considered in the contract.
Well, what I was alluding to is he's saying it's trending down. Is it trending down because we fixed some of those issues?
No,
Okay.
it's not due to that.
Okay.
The issues of the I&I are kind of separate from what the issues are of what our rates are and the billable gallons. Okay, that's still part of what we have to do and what we have to fix. Which I might add, the county has been a great partner in this. Okay, that's above what the contract is. We just doing on the I&I end, I'll go through it quickly for you, but we have a 5-year plan. We've been working with Pat, Mahoning County, for the last 3 years. We put together a 5-year package. At the end of this package, we were supposed to remove as much as we can of the I&I. We would come to an assumption, okay, now, do we expand our treatment plant to add higher gallonage that we're going to treat? Do they build retention, which we still would end up treating, okay? But anyways, but they have some major projects on the books that they're doing that's going to remove more I&I out of our system. And it's to a number that it's not, doesn't behoove us to start doing engineering on the treatment plant, okay? I'm putting together a report right now to go to the EPA of our progress. And within that progress over the years, working with Pat, probably want to say the last 5 years to 6 years, the county has spent $34 million just in removing I&I from our system. So they have been a good partner to us, okay? A lot of times in these situations when you're dealing city to city, county to county, you know, county could say, hey, screw it, you know, you're only doing, our contract says you're going to take our water at billable gallons. The county hasn't done that to us. They have a vested interest, because as our treatment facility goes, so does development in Boardman and Poland. If we can't take anymore, Boardman and Poland, parts of Boardman and Poland don't develop anymore.
Right.
Okay, so, but they have been a good partner within this. And I think with Tony, that's part of maybe some of this, what he's looking at too, of what the county contract is for us now, and not looking in that direction.
I want to make it very clear that you shouldn't be equating wet weather issues with potable water consumption. And it's the dry weather that you need to be looking at, and that's what I'm referring to as what's trending downward. And I think that potentially could have a lot to do with some of the improvements that have been ongoing with the county over the years. And another reason why we would recommend that you kind of keep where you're at with the county. The other thing is that as you continue to spend money, they also spend money. And that's not a sell point there, but they have been a really good partner, at least from the data that we've seen, to help with 2/3 of your operating costs.
Sure.
Right? Did you have another question?
I did not.
Okay.
The reason I have those questions is because everybody watching expects me to ask them.
That's good.
County has, yeah, you're on.
So
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't.
No, that's great. So I didn't even know I was on. Anyway, the recommendation is this: you keep contracts with the county the way they are. We also recommend that you do look at raising rates over the next 5 years, starting this year. Raising rates from $3.32 first time to $4.50. That is your usage fee. We also recommend, because you have, and I didn't cover the debt service part of this, but you have 10 open loans right now. So obviously the city has a pretty healthy appetite to take on low interest loans over a certain term. Those will not retire until 2041. Most of them won't retire until then. When we did the projection over the 20 years, I want you all to know that we also included the amortization of all of those loans and where you're making those debt service payments over the years. Given the fact that you have a healthy appetite for taking low interest loans, there's really no better time to do that right now while interest rates are still really low.
Or why inflation is really high.
Well, it could have to do with that, but the state revolving loan account doesn't drive that. The recommendation for your rates are $4.50 by 2022 now. In 2024, you raise your rates again another 50 cents to $5. And then by 2026, assuming you take another look at the health of your operating funds, you raise rates to $5.50. This also includes a debt service increase of $1.50 in 2022. So taking your $3 flat fee and raising it to $4.50. What that does, of the 16 scenarios that we looked at for the city, that is the best option. That actually allows you to take in as much revenue as your expenses over those years. Also, what it allows you to do is to start to set up a rainy day fund or an unrestricted fund of about $80,000 annually. It's not a lot of money, but it'll help when you gotta buy more bleach or more chlorine or whatever chemicals you find that you're running out of because of wet weather issues. The impact to your community, your residential ratepayers. Remember I said that on average the consumption rate is just under 4,000 gallons a month. That equates to an average monthly payment of $20 for most people. The increases as we propose over 2022 through 2024 into 2026. If you did raise rates $4.50, and you also increase your debt service flat fee to $4.50, your average monthly payment would increase $7. The annual average payment would increase $83. And it does increase from there in 2024. There's a table, maybe you don't have it in your packet. But the average month in 2024, the average monthly payment would be just under $35. With an average annual payment of $4.14. And the peak of this by 2026, if you did decide to raise rates to $5.50, would be a $37 monthly average and just under $444 annually. I know it sounds tough when you think about this, but when you go back to those community comparisons and the affordability of this community, again, you rank lowest compared to communities of your size and user accounts of 41,000 thereabouts. The increase that we're talking about here, even at the far term in the 2026, still keeps you at the bottom of that list, right? Your median household income here is just around $39,000, right, annually, which is well below. It's only 65% of the state median, $59,000 thereabouts, right? And so the affordability matrix that the EPA uses and works in conjunction with Eastgate, your MPO over here, indicates that you can afford, your homeowners could afford $589 annually for just sewer service. This does not include your potable water service. It's just for sewer. Increases all the way to the max of what we're recommending here, keeps you well underneath that. Again, it's the difference between $589 annually versus the max of what we would see if you did decide to raise rate of $444. So you're still well below the affordability there, and you have room to adjust if you want. The reason why we recommend you raise rates in the manner we're projecting right now, this year, wait 2 years, wait another 2 years, is because that time allows you to come back, take a look at the health of your funds. If water consumption does go up by 1% instead of 0.1%, well, obviously your revenue would change. And so maybe there could be an adjustment, or you forego raising rates then in 2024, right? And the same could be said between 2024 and 2026. Depending on consumption and how what the health of the system is, you could make that adjustment then. You have $3 million thereabouts of future capital improvements, which are slated to begin in 2041. If you take $80,000 a year right now, 2041. Yeah, $1.6 million of capital improvements that WPC believes will need to be taken on at that time. Again, 20 years down the road. If you start that rainy day fund today, you'll have basically banked exactly what you would need to spend for those future capital improvements. If it's a digester improvement, if it's a contact tank improvement, whatever the case may be. That does not include any interest that you could build from that. That is a restricted fund that you could also use to tap if you ever felt the need because of something came up that was unexpected. I've said a lot, and I don't think you guys had time to digest this whole presentation, and so I'm willing to answer all of your questions if I can.
I don't think we have a chart of what you have. Is there a way we can get a copy of that, please? The increasement.
So basically, how are we in such bad shape if we literally just about doubled our rates 2 years ago?
That's how low we were before, and just doubling them.
In this fund.
The only thing, if I may for 1 second, Bells, it wasn't doubled, it was only on the usage charge that was brought up. None of the other flat fees were brought up.
Right, but the usage charge was basically doubled.
The usage charge.
The usage charge.
Definitely, and it was brought up to $3. It was brought up to $3.32.
I do a good job at balancing your funds, but if
They're not our
the
funds.
county,
They're the city's
the
funds, and I think that's my
county
point.
can't do it, and no other community can do it on this low of a rate, well, how do you think we can do it? And then, look at it this way, we can't make any improvements and we can't do anything at this plant, and we wanna grow our community and bring businesses in here, and Kathy's gonna have to say, hey, we gotta turn you away because we can't take any more water because we can't make any improvements.
Well, I guess my point to that is, what a huge, you want to attract businesses here, what a huge selling point to somebody who uses a ton of water that we got the lowest rates
But
there are.
guess what? At the rates we're proposing, we still have extremely low rates.
we're still at the bottom,
We're
even
still
after,
at the bottom.
at 5 years down the road in 2026, even with the rate increases, we're still below the or the $585 LMI for our area,
I
for
feel like
our
this,
town.
to tell people now that you're gonna receive a rate increase for the next 5 years, after it doubled 2 years ago, is a lot to lay on them, even though if it's an incremental amount of money,
But it's gonna be an even bigger
especially when we just asked them to pay for a fire station.
So if I'm
Especially when we
telling
just
you
ask them
as
to
the
pay for these
auditor
things,
that
and
you have
especially
a
when
drop
they
dead
say,
date.
they see that we just received all this money. When they see things like that, and then we have to go to them for more money, boy, they don't like that.
And everybody's really upset right now
Yeah.
because their
Right.
water bills are a lot higher,
Yeah.
regardless.
So
But even
again, I'm looking at it from
raise their water.
I'm looking at it from the
Right.
position
I
of the
understand
people.
that.
I understand you guys, we're
But
running,
rates go up
I understand that.
for everything.
So
That's
whatever
something
kind
we're
of
gonna have to
council
deal with.
passes rates, you pass legislation to pass these rates, okay? These people elected me to look at these finances, and as the elected auditor, I'm telling you, you've got a problem, it needs addressed. I'm sorry it's unpopular, but we're gonna have a much bigger problem if we don't address it, for sure.
What are we doing with the extra money that come into the tax office?
That is general fund money, and I cannot legally use it on the sewer plant because the sewer plant is an enterprise fund. And
So we
it's-
can't, so what you're
No.
saying, we can't touch none of that?
You cannot use general fund money to support this plant. This is solely supported by customers. This is customer driven, and it would be illegal for me to meddle those funds. And if you would do any kind of research
you're
into
right.
the last couple years, you will see some communities that got in big trouble for doing such a thing.
I understand.
And in no way will I have a part of doing anything like that, because it's quite.
Well, no, I mean,
illegal.
obviously, we know
So
that,
he said the amounts of water that we'll be getting in is gonna diminish once that 5 Points place is built?
Well, there's gonna be flow taking off of us. The broader picture of that is there's gonna be well over 1,000,000+ gallons of inflow coming into the city too, which, and with other future projects they're doing on lining and stuff like that that they have proposed, should reduce that even more, which is gonna help our people, hopefully, reducing in backups and, in our basements during heavy
So will that
rainstorms.
reduce the
It's not gonna reduce
the
the.
level of the sewage
Not the-
treatment plant? It's a level
It-
4 right now, right?
It's a class 4 right
Class
now,
four, that's what-
yeah. We can, that can be petitioned and looked at through the EPA when we're doing the permit, which we're looking at doing right now.
Okay, Guy.
And it's not based on the flow, there's a formula they have, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying they're building, Poland Townships up there, building a
Pump station, right?
pump station and that up there?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
lot involved with that going on,
Right.
but yeah,
A lot.
yes.
So is that gonna save us anything coming into the plant?
It's not gonna be on the, we're gonna see some of a drop on the billable gallons, like the daily average flow coming in. But where that's gonna have its biggest impact is on the inflow coming into the plant, stormwater flow
So
coming to the plant.
losing, so that'd be basically be losing income when they start.
There'll be a certain amount, it could be, yes, and if the county just determined to renegotiate the contract, we would have to look at all the billable gallons. Definitely. But the point of it is, we still have to operate the facility regardless of the county.
but I wanna understand that right. The county pays us for the gallons, or they pick up 64%?
Our monthly bill, we turn in our monthly expenses to Mahoning County,
Mhm.
and
They
they pay
64%.
64.5% of our monthly expenses.
Okay. So the
Okay.
flows won't matter in that regard then?
The billable gallons will matter, on that, and the proportion, if you think of it as, that is the proportion of the plant they use. They use 64% of our plant, 64.5% of our plant, right, which is what ties us together. Okay. I mean, these are very, and I truly understand it's very painful. but we have to be able to maintain the operation of the facility. I mean, that's up to us to do that and to cover our end. I've loaned out stuff to rebuild things that we needed to rebuild down at the plant. We're just finishing up with a loan of over $400 and some thousand. If the flat rate doesn't move on that, and we don't have credible finances, we can't even go get a loan for anything I need. And you have to understand, and you know, everything is so expensive down there, it's ridiculous. Just like I told you with the air handling units. I've got 4 of my units down there that are explosion-proof units. I just can't, you know, that bumps the cost up. I looked at a portable unit, okay? Regular one you would like hang kind of on a wall somewhere, figuring for your garage, that size, but this was a portable unit, okay? One you'd hang in your garage was like $800. This one on the wheels, because it was explosion-proof, it was $25,000. I mean, my pumps, you know, when we repair a pump, an average repair on our pump is probably $5,000 or $6,000 to rebuild it, bearings, new impellers, and doing that. And
you know, the truth of this is,
done.
the reason that we're running it, that it is such a, I guess, issue to raise it is because normally, when we're dealing with all the other departments, they're not an enterprise. They're part of the general fund, okay? So understand that it's a little bit of shock for me when it's like, we raised it, we gotta keep putting this on the people. If you were asking for something for the police station, we all pitch in on that because it's a general fund issue. Fire department, you know, the whole city pitches in on this.
We're covering the difference through the general fund right now, aren't we?
For what?
No, we can't.
No.
We can't. We're not allowed to use
That's
that.
why he said, I think it's 2026.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're on a spiral. Every year it gets tighter and tighter, okay? I think the important thing is that, I mean, I know this isn't easy, and it never is, and especially in these times, but everybody's house is going up too. This is our house too. And I'm not immune, our plant isn't immune to price increases either of what's going on. As consumption goes down too, because everything's, the flow rate is based on all the consumption of water used. Okay, that's what the base rate is on. And, you know, I won't be able to do anything out if I have a major go down. I mean, I had a repair on the 2 screens, 1 screen, and they've been in service for 10 years. They run on timers, but they run 24/7.
So how are you gonna educate the constituents on this?
I mean, it is what it is. We have to take care of our house.
I understand that, but my point is, people aren't going to be happy. They're not going to see it that way.
Right, but if we don't do it and EPA gets involved in somebody else, these rates are going to be triple what they
I understand,
are. Because the
because
first
then
thing
they
they're
set
going to
the
do is come in
rates.
and look at it
I
and
understand
say,
that.
you're at the lowest and jack us up. So that's the...
Well, I mean, but there is some comparison here that isn't really fair. When we bring up Poland, somebody like Poland, we're not Poland. We don't pay the property tax Poland pays. We don't have the income that Poland pays. So to compare our water rates is incredible.
$39,000.
Nobody compared it to Campbell, which we're more in line with.
It's you know, I mean, really, it's asking people a lot.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Aqua.
And I can, no, and I understand that, but that was part of what he brought up with the LMI, we call it the low and moderate
You may
income.
look at them as being
where
a
our city
community
is
that
with
has,
that.
you know, higher
The state
standard of
would-
living than we do here.
The state would set a standard for our income of living
right?
for Struthers.
It's what?
And that's $580 some dollars.
Why would our
a year.
waste
They
cost
for
any
sewer.
less than their waste?
Okay,
Just because
even
they make
with
more
our
money?
rates at the final
The
year of
rates are different
2026,
because
we're not.
no. He put on that.
We're still below
this
that
area. We base our rates
Okay,
off
so
of
we
the
are
income.
still low when you
Off
look
of
at
the
the
$39,000 income. He based that. He said that.
I mean, that's
It
over a
would still
year.
be an
Point
ordinance.
out
Over a
that
year.
it's still affordable.
Sure.
And-
But when
and
you're
it's
going to
still
make that
gradual
comparison, you're going to
rates.
have to make it in
Money that
Poland
we've
too.
received
Because
What I'm hearing here is, and I think there's some things that are being lost in translation here. The questioning strategy is good, and it's around the fact that you need to protect your community that has a lower than the median household income.
Yes.
And so why jack up rates? The converse of that is, one, you don't have a system to operate, period. So you lose all of the revenue and the service that is necessary by legal authority through the state. So you will find that to be very challenging in the future. The other thing is if you do decide to try to put it on the backs of the county because they make up 64.5% of what we believe is, equitable and fair to the wastewater treatment plant, is what would that proposed rate be to those residents in Poland then? Because if you raise rates for your community, for outlying communities, you also have to look at what happens inside your corporation limits as well. So you could look at a scenario that says, hey, we keep rates here in Struthers as they are, commensurate with median household income or levels that are, appealing to council here, and you look at maybe higher rates for those because of affordability is better outside of your corporation limits in the tributary portions of the county. That will be very difficult to sell as well.
I understand, but what I'm speaking to is the fact that you said
this is based on water consumption
right.
as well. And there's a lot of conversation here about how much flow comes to the plant and wet weather. Please put that aside.
No. I'm speaking to when I'm speaking to her. I'm speaking to the point that you basically said our rates and you said our medium household income.
Yeah.
And you spoke to Poland's rates, and they were much higher, correct?
Well,
They're
it's
billed
the
for
county's
the
rates. The
that's the
county,
county rate.
remember, has more end users than just Poland. And
Okay.
so you got to think about their average of their entire landscape of their collection
But that is the
system.
comparison that you
Poland
made.
actually
You
annual
said what Poland pays.
Correct, and you're correct in
And you did compare that to what we pay. And that's not an even comparison because we're not the same kind of city.
Who
They
else
make
would-
far more money
Who
than us.
else is it?
That's my
but
point.
they're
What
getting the same
communities-
service.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that, but what I'm saying
Communities
is
are paying what Poland's paying
it
under
doesn't
the
hurt
county.
Poland as much as it hurts our constituents. So that's not comparing apples to apples. That was my point. It wasn't where it comes from wasn't anything else. To compare Poland's rates to Struthers rates, even though it's the same service, I get that.
Yeah.
But what they can afford and what we can afford, based off of that median household income, are two completely different levels. So my point was that we're in that comparison, you are not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges.
I'm comparing to what the state includes across all communities here. So what the EPA developed from the Farm Act years ago and what the county MPO, or Eastgate MPO manages and monitors. Poland Township, the state median average, by the way, is 56,000, just over 56,000. Poland Township's MHI is 85,000. So yes, to your point, they certainly are wealthier than those at least reported in Struthers. Poland Village is 69,000. But there are other communities within Mahoning County.
Yes, you're
that
talking
are
about
also
90% more in income. I mean, again, I'm just, when you're making those two comparisons, it's tough to compare us to a place like Poland.
The affordability rate that's for those communities that you're looking at, just for the sewers, again, I want to remind you that your affordability rate, which you are nowhere near right now, is $589 annually just for sewer, for your sewer fund, per residential ratepayer. What Poland pays right now, or what their affordability is, which in their affordability rate is higher because their median household income is higher, and so yes, the county could charge more to them, is $1,500 annually.
So 3 times.
So 3 times. So yes, they could be paying upwards of 3 times. When you go, because there was a good comment about grants and funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We got to be real clear on that too, and I want to help you understand this. When you go to seek grants or principal forgiveness financing or low interest loans, which you have 10 on the books right now, the first thing that the EPA, the OWDA, the USDA, all of those state revolving loan managers look at is your affordability and how close you are to it. I think if the city doesn't strongly consider raising rates, you're going to have a real tough time through the state revolving loan account to help give you capital to make the improvements that are upwards of $3 million over the next 20 years. Because they're going to say, hey, how are you going to pay that loan back?
Get in here, Lori.
So where is Poland at on that 1,500? Where are they to their, because there's no way people are paying 1,500 a year probably for sewer.
You'd be shocked. Yes, they are.
Really?
Easily, yeah.
They're close to it.
Yeah. For simple math here, communities like Willoughby Heights, I don't have the list in front of me.
It's page
They're-
4.
Thank you, they're paying $9 per 100 cubic feet right now.
Well,
You know-
what's Poland paying right now? Because I don't.
$9.20.
They're paying $9.20.
They're part of the county,
They're
though,
county.
so they don't have their own.
You know, and I suppose, like it or not, what's the alternative? I mean, the
I understand that.
alternative, the alternative, I mean, we can make all the comparisons that we want to make.
Sure.
You know, but
You're right.
at the end of the day, do we want to have a
Functioning water system?
a
Yes,
functioning water system? I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I understand, but this is a conversation that we really do need to have.
Absolutely.
And I think everybody
I'm with
knows
you.
we
I'm
need
with
to
you
have
100%.
this. And
Yes.
you need this conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Whatever we decide, agreed that, you know, this is, our rates are gonna need to change. That's something that's gonna happen in the future.
Right.
How they have to change, and what magnitude they have to change, I mean, they have mapped that out for us, but again, we need to take a look at this as closely as possible. We've asked the people for a lot of money over the last few years.
No, I think take mine up
Come
all the
on.
time, absolutely, yeah.
This is I think this is a huge portion of government, not here, completely across the United States. That isn't their money. The government doesn't have money. We don't have money. We have the people's money.
Right.
We have tax money. We have an obligation to them to do the best we can with their money. And a lot of times governments forget that. And we're not going to forget that. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
And we're going to look after it as best we can. And I'm sorry if anybody that upsets people or anything, but that's our job.
You're
No,
100%
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
but I just want to point out that none of this is tax money. That this is all user driven. Okay, just
But it's still the city's money. That's my whole...
okay.
My-
But I just want to. I have had a lot of people in the past give me calls and be completely nasty about that's my tax dollars, and the truth is it's not 1 penny of your tax
Because
dollars.
it's self-sustaining and it's an
Correct.
enterprise. I
It is
understand that, but it's
user-based.
still the city's water
So
system.
if you use less water, you pay less.
Yeah.
I mean, it's user based. That's all I want
And
to
that's
point
true
out.
too, like, and you think about like what Chrissy's saying, and we could go back to when my parents were younger and they used the same bath water, okay? Maybe us as consumers,
Maybe.
I'm not saying we have to do, I'm saying,
I know.
but I'm just saying that
Ricky
I
Lee's
think
in
we're
there.
wasteful. And maybe, you know, when people see that, you know, they have control over this, there's no reason we need to keep things running and do.
No,
And I know you're laughing at me, but.
No, I'm not because I said
It
Ricky,
is some
Ricky pees in the tub, so don't fall in if you're gonna take it back.
And also,
What it comes down
so
to
what
is
about
that
Youngstown? What would their median,
It's a great,
like, where are they at in this scenario?
I don't have the statistics for
We
Youngstown,
also
but
have 60,000 people compared to our 10,000. Again,
We're
very
talking about,
different
but you were talking about affordability and
Correct.
price.
it does have some bearing on the
But they did come in,
conversation.
right? Was it the EPA that came in Youngstown? Right?
Correct.
And now they're very high.
They're under consent.
They're
Is that
under
what
consent
consent
decree,
decree?
but no, their
That means
rates
they
are
have
not.
to perform, their money, the EPA is now, they've been through court. You will
But
spend
the-
this amount of money and reduce.
but then their usage charge is
No,
very
their
high.
rates are extremely high.
Yeah.
The problem that the Youngstown has right now, that we see, is that they are having a tough time getting their loans approved because rates aren't where the state would prefer them to be to help with the debt service over the next 20 to 30 years for two very large loans. That's our understanding.
Well,
I
then
don't,
it
Do
sounds
you have
like
the
since
rates for
everybody's in that
Youngstown?
I do not have
situation,
them
maybe
with
the
me,
state
no.
should lower their standards on getting the loans.
That's a good point.
It's true.
But
Yeah.
Everybody's in the same
that's-
situation.
I
Yeah.
understand, but yeah,
well,
that would be great if they would do that.
So what
They
it
give
comes
away
down to
everything
though-
else, I mean, what the hell?
What it comes
Yeah.
down to is they want us to raise the rates over $3.50 the first year.
Yeah.
And then 50 cents after that, again, in 2 more years and 2 more years. I
Could
don't have a
this
problem
be-
with the 50 cent
Yeah.
increase, but this first rate
Yeah.
is gonna be brutal to
Well,
sell.
I mean, it's evident, I think everybody sitting here knows that from talking to Guy, talking to these guys, we're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
Are we going to sign on to a 5-year hike every year? I don't know that I could stomach that
Do
as
we
far
have
as
to
selling
raise the
it.
debt service this year?
Yes, that's what we're recommending.
Do we have to?
You,
We don't have to do
there's a
nothing.
point where we owe loan,
Is it-
yes, there's a point where we owe loans and we're gonna run out of money to pay them.
Yeah, but shouldn't we have thought of that when we
Took out the
loans
loans?
Well,
Yeah.
some of these loans were taken out way before any of us were here,
I know
so
that,
I
but-
can't answer
That's
all
why
those
We're
questions
just
about
pretty
that.
much biting the bullet from
But it's all-
1994 to
Right, but if
2018 because
if-
nobody else did their job.
But over
Right.
time, if we didn't have that chunk of 25 years where nothing was done, we wouldn't be in the
Exactly, that's what I just
situation.
said.
It would have been an incremental.
But it's tough
Yeah,
to
we're
put it on
biting the
people.
bullet.
Yeah, but,
Now it's not
yeah,
great.
but
That's
in
what-
the last 10 years, we've dumped a lot of money into that sewage treatment plant.
Yep.
A lot of money.
They've dumped a lot of money.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that.
Well,
Right.
the grants that we got. We
Correct.
got the methane thing that
'Cause
we
you couldn't- I got
did, all
confused
that.
Right, but that was grant money,
Right,
total
but
grant
that's a
money.
lot of money.
Yeah, no, and without a doubt, but every bit of that too is to sit back and think, for every dollar we spend, the county's giving us 65 cents back on that dollar. This is the only, I don't know of
If I have the
how many
dollars
other
to
plants
spend,
are
I'm
like
not
that,
getting
but
anything.
for every dollar I spend, I get 65 cents back, okay?
You only really need
So
35
that's
cents.
why too, that our rates are, even with this structure,
Not
may
all.
seem like it's high, but it's really not all that high when I get a return on my money. If I could get, if I can get, it's just basic math
So
on
I have
that
a
end.
question.
If I get a buck, I got $1.65 to spend.
Yeah. I
I
get
don't
it.
know if this goes to you guys but like for instance, these capital improvements, the vacuum truck, $410,000. Like this is things that we could probably get grants for eventually.
We're working
We're
on it.
already doing that. We're
So-
already
So
going.
why are they
Is there
factored
cost-
in?
I have a
That's what
question
I'm
for
gonna
that,
ask.
because we
So-
hear this a lot.
Can't guarantee.
You know, why is it an assumption that you can get grants for that? I wanna know where that comes from.
Well, I know a few years ago you could have got grants for a dump truck or anything like that through USDA because we applied for them here.
We couldn't
Or-
though because we are not.
Because our
yet
accounting
compliant.
system wasn't GAP compliant. It was the only reason that we couldn't. But those grants doesn't mean they're not out there. They just,
Are we really talking about grants or low interest loans?
no.
Grants. No, the USDA stopped giving grants out a
Correct.
while ago. They give low interest loans, and we looked at them when we did even just the fire station, and guess what? The bank we got the bonds through was lower than the rate that the USDA would offer. They stopped giving loans grants a long time ago.
We're actually going after the capital budget. KO's putting this all together to try to get this, but we can't. That's
No,
not
it's not.
guaranteed. This is
It's
our first
absolutely
time
not.
applying for a
But that's what
capital
I'm saying.
budget
Like,
ever.
is this change in rates?
You're asking, is this accurate? Because
Yeah,
you don't
yes.
know that something, well, it's hard to say that it is because you don't know that a portion of that isn't gonna be paid through something else, correct? We're
So this
projecting these for the
increase-
worst, correct?
Is
If we buy a vac truck,
estimated cost?
well, no, what I'm saying is, we're projecting that
Well-
we're gonna get no subsidies, right?
We need the
But we're
vac
putting that on the
truck-
people now.
We need the vac truck 6 months ago. Some of these other items that we're predicting will need replaced by, 2041. In 10 years from now, if you raise the rates and any of us are still sitting here and we are like flush with cash, then you could lower them if you want to. But the point is, we don't know what we don't know, and none of us have a crystal ball. But what I do know is if you don't act soon and decisively, we will run out of money. Period. And we will cease to not have money to do regular operations, let alone any kind of, a capital debt plan, which, by the way, is not so far out of the realm of what should have happened here. And I can't speak to what people have been doing here for 50 years. I can only say that, it's a good idea, it's a good business plan, and we should be doing it. And that's my,
2 cents.
no, that's my recommendation as your elected CFO, is that that's what we need to do.
Yeah,
And
how
if
many
you guys
people-
take this home and you wanna regurgitate it, it regurgitated back to you, you wanna pour over this and you have questions, I'm sure Guy will answer questions. These nice gentlemen that Guy and I knew enough that together we could not make this happen, so we asked them to help us.
Asked or
they'd be
hired?
happy to answer any
Okay,
question.
I just want to clarify that.
We wanted
Ask her higher.
clear, we wanted it to be an accurate
Yeah.
reading of what.
Listen, you thought they could tell it better than you
No,
guys.
as you
No,
so
I think
eloquently
you-
pointed
the
out,
citizens need to
well, we just
understand.
doubled the rates and it didn't work.
And they
So
need it for
obviously
somebody that's a
that
professional
mechanism
about
of figuring out
figuring
didn't work.
The study that MS did was kind of useless.
Well, it wasn't as in-depth as this went, wasn't as in-depth as this was.
So who paid for this?
We did.
We did, this came out of my fund.
And what is the cost of that?
It was $9,500.
So, again, when we're talking about,
Of which the county will pay 64.5.
good point, Chrissy, but again, when we're discussing things like this and we're saying, we gotta raise the rates, there's no money. We paid $9,500 for these guys to put this together and sell it to us. Do you think that the people out there think that that is responsible on our end? No, they're gonna say, we gotta raise our rates because this is what they're doing with the money.
Yeah, but look what happened last time.
If we don't do it responsibly
You paid
and get an accurate,
$5,000 for an
we don't get an accurate
$5,000
account of
for
this,
nothing.
we wasted our time and money. I couldn't come to Kat or Chrissy and say, just double them again.
Guy
We
knows
don't have
what
to
he
double them
knows
again, we
about
gotta
the
raise them,
plan.
we don't have to double them again.
But the people are gonna have a field day with this, you know it as well as I
But
do.
they're gonna have a bigger field day if we have to close the plant, and then we have to raise the rates by 20%.
Right.
It's,
I can see that too. We're
we're
looking
in
at
no
the
way.
future.
I mean,
We don't, Dallas, we don't as
truly-
administration wanna raise the rates,
Yeah.
but that's the situation, that's the reality that we're in right now.
And there isn't an excuse if I have breakdown of equipment that I can go to the EPA and say, I don't have the money.
And grants off the table. If they come back, they ask for this information too. We're not getting any grants
If
if
you're
they
not
look at our
solvent, they're not
structure.
gonna throw money at you. They're gonna say, no, we're moving on to a community that's solvent and that's actually gonna work in.
The first thing they're gonna do is
I
come
would
to
disagree.
say,
Look
look
at
how
the
low
people
you
who
are
get money.
compared to everybody else.
Youngstown gets more money than anybody, are they solvent?
I just know that a lot of times if you come in and we're
I
not gonna
understand.
throw away good money in
I get
a
what
plan
I get your
like,
point to
I'm gonna
that,
give you
but
this
that's
much
what the
money and
government
it's not
does.
gonna
They
bring
throw
you up
money
to
at things
anything.
that are completely not solvent.
Could we
I
make this
mean-
a little less less intense? Like make it more of a gradual thing? Does it have to be?
I
like,
think we could, but we're still gonna,
I mean, it.
So of the 16 scenarios that we evaluated, we did look at that. There's a do nothing option, which shows that you, in essence, is the auditor just
Yeah, which I don't
bluntly
think
pointed
we
out
could
to
do
you.
a do
You lose.
nothing.
Correct. So raising it just to $4, your usage rates and nothing else, you lose money by 20, what was it, 30?
Well, could you get us to the same point without doing so much initially? Like, could we gradually, like you're
Break
going
that
to-
initial,
So we
break
looked
it
at,
down into the 5
we looked at
years.
a next 5 years of raising it basically 50 cents every year type of thing. And no, it's just, it's a matter of timing. You
Yeah, but-
aren't generating enough
What
revenue
if-
income
So we need
to
to generate
outbill.
it now.
But what if you broke that initial cost down and added it over the 5 years?
Say that again.
You took that initial cost, broke it down, and incrementally added it over the next 5 years. So you said 50 cents. What if instead of it's 75 cents for across 5 years and not 250, 50, 50, 50?
You need to build up your fund now.
That is something that you obviously can consider, and we can run that scenario very quickly. And I want you to know that we did look at those incremental increases over time. Again, back to my point I was just trying to tell you is that you don't generate enough revenue in the first 2 years to be able to sustain you to continue to build up that corpus over the next 3 and then thereabouts after that.
Alright,
instead of being
I
dead
guess-
in 26, we're dead in 28.
All right, so listen, I guess all I'm trying to understand is, but over the next 5 years, if we produced the same amount of revenue and broke the structure down differently, it wouldn't work.
I don't understand how you break the revenue. What do you mean?
Well, basically, you're charging, it's $250 initially, correct? That's our rate increase?
Yeah, it gets you from 366 to 450.
So, quick math, so we got
it's-
$250
it's
first
just
year.
$1 in essence.
It's
almost.
$1.18.
Yeah.
Okay, and then every year after that, it's
But it's
50 cents.
$1.50 on the debt, so it's a total of, $2.63 the first year.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is instead of having a big rate hike, we broke that initial large hike down.
and spread it over the 5 years. So in that 5 years, we're still generating the same amount. We're getting to the same amount. But initially, there isn't this big punch in the face to people, which we already raised 2 years ago. I guess I don't want people shell-shocked. If this is something that, hey, inflation sucks. Over the next 5 years, it's going to gradually step into this. More than, listen, we're going to raise it each year, but next year, we're really going to hit you.
It's a great concept, and again, I remind you that we did evaluate that small incremental increase over 5 years, right? But what I think maybe is being overlooked is the fact that your expenses and your outlay coming from operating and maintaining your 90-year-old system jacks up faster than the revenue you can bring in. And so your debt, your outgoing expenses, you never catch up. You know, when you look at that projection for the do-nothing scenario, you'll see that your expense line is always higher than your revenue line. And so what we're saying is this option
gets you ahead of it.
It's the only option that gets you equal with it.
Let me ask you this.
And is gentle over 5 years. Because we're very sensitive to that in every community we work in.
How about, you know, as far as, I mean, these are all projections and, you know.
Based on assumptions of escalators at 2%, between 2% and 3%. And these
All
escalators.
based on statistical data.
Right. Did you so with that said, you know, what is the plus or minus? Let's say, you know, you make these projections, and let's say, you know, how accurate are they? You know, is there a plus or minus of 10%? Is there a plus or minus of 20%?
That's a good question. I don't know what the accuracy would be, again, because they're based on escalators for your expenses.
Right.
All of your percentage increases or payroll percentages that you have to take out by state, and they're also based on consumer projection, how much water is being consumed. And I want to remind you that we only looked at 0.1% growth of water consumption over the next 20 years. It could be upwards of 1%. And another reason why we're suggesting that you raise rates in the manner we're suggesting, and just to be clear on that, it's 3 rate increases over 5 years, not a rate increase every year. And what that does is it allows you a gap year to evaluate the health of your fund. And at that time, you are in a good state there, you are healthy, then maybe you do dial back the rate increase or forego it until a later time. It's just a matter of not just putting $1.66 on a rate table right now from 1995 and living with it and doing nothing with it, and then coming back literally 15 years later and saying just double it. This is actually something that we looked at to take into those considerations about the increases in your health care, the increases in your retirement, the increases in the workforce that you have to worry about here because everyone's aging out right now, at least in the wastewater business. It takes into those considerations as well as allowing you to start an unrestricted rainy day fund so that guy and his team at Water Pollution Control doesn't have to wait for 4 months to be paid back for the expenditure that they needed 6 years ago. It's trying to get you into a healthy operating fund, as every resident, I assume, in your community likes to be to manage their own services. And the reason we always hear, hey, we don't want to raise rates because we think we can get grants, I gotta tell you, they're not being doled out because the state purposely created state revolving loan funds to act as a bank for water enterprise services, not only for sewer, but also for potable water, okay? If you're comparing yourself to other communities, what do they pay for Netflix today? What do they pay for Amazon Prime? What do they pay for all those other services that are being provided to them, regardless of where they live? It's the same service that Poland receives, that Struthers receives. So it's not a great comparison when you think about that, just because of their affordability.
Netflix isn't a necessity. So if you're here and you can't afford it, you don't have to have it. The people who are here, they need water and they need waste. So again, that's a null and void comparison as well.
But it's a service that's being provided.
It is, but we're talking about necessities that people need to live. Right. I'm not talking about somebody's Netflix account, and I don't care what kind of cable they have either. But I do care that the people here can afford the water that they get, or can afford the waste management side of it. So,
we have,
and I guess to that point, though, I want you to be to understand that the analysis does assume that the affordability is still well below of what all the statistics say right now. And I get it, there's a pain point. As a council, I don't want to raise rates. I wouldn't want to do that either.
I want to do it based on where we're at now. We did it 2 years ago, right? And the time, basically in society that we're in, right?
It's
Everybody's they're getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Gas is doubled,
Right.
and now I guess
Right.
it's making it easier for us to say, well, everything's went up, this got to go up too, you got to swallow it. The only thing is, I don't have control over gas. I don't have control over my groceries going up. I'm trying to control this as best I can for the people that I serve.
Absolutely.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
And you should be very well, and you also do not have control over Mother Nature.
Sure.
Right, and your aging system is starting to show wear and tear to that. And we have to put yourself in a position to be able to maintain that and to be able to continue to provide that service, hence the recommendations. If we saw something that the health of your operating fund didn't require this, we wouldn't have recommended it. The other thing to point out here that we're not talking about, and it is connected, is your stormwater utility. Right, the only reason we're looking at this is because it's included in your vendor fees that go out, and you also pay 6.9% on top of that for vendor services fees. Those will continue to increase as you go as well. Something that the council may want to consider looking into. As that fund continues to generate a flat fixed fee of $4.50 for every residential user, you will also begin to run out of operating money for that fund as well. So we are really just talking about sewer debt service, your SDO 500 and your SDO debt service 505 funds right now about rate increases, but at some point in time, it looks as if the data suggests that you also will have to evaluate your stormwater utility at some point in time within the next 6 years.
Just adding fuel to fire here.
Yeah.
Well, it's something about managing your systems here.
How many people right now are not paying their
Very
sewage
good point.
rates?
We actually have been working with John Moyta to
Right,
to
right,
collect
I know
those.
that.
Yeah,
but-
we have,
A total of how many? There's
Well,
tons.
just the
We
list
got
he
the list
gave
last
us,
week.
yeah, just the
Yeah,
list
the
he
list
gave us 2
he
weeks
gave
ago,
us,
I mean,
there was,
I
I mean, the
filed
whole
mine.
page, it's a whole page full.
well, we have, John
Jimmy,
Moyta's
I
filing
filed
against
mine.
them in court, but what
Okay.
happened is there was a backup
Did you go
in
on
civil
Twitter
because of COVID,
already?
so they
Right.
weren't taking any new
So-
cases.
Right.
So now they're starting to generate those, so we're hoping to see a lot of those being collected upon.
Yeah.
Because there-
So
we
will
couldn't
that
do anything
money
because of
go to,
Yeah, that money has to go to them.
whatever we collect,
Yeah.
It has to go to
That
them.
goes back.
Definitely, it can't go anywhere else.
okay,
but we can't say what we're
Can't go to
gonna.
you?
yeah, of course.
It's not-
Don't go to me, I work for the city.
And I mean, Guy illustrated to Dallas's point about, you know, the cost of everything being outrageous. Guy's costs are outrageous.
I understand. I understand. Obviously, this is a frustrating conversation, to say the least. I think for probably everybody. You guys have already been dealing with it, so your level of understanding, I guess, on it is probably higher than ours.
And it's
You
a
know,
good thing
you
we're having
know what I'm.
this,
You understand what I'm
because we're
saying?
getting educated on
You
it
didn't get.
too, though.
We're kind of hit in the face with this, where you guys have.
But even in 2020, when
Incrementally.
we started, we knew this was, that's why we went.
I just thought
and
when we
got
did
this.
it in 2020, it was going to last a while. People didn't like it
But
then. I thought it was hoping we would last 10 years.
Lasted
I
You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
kind of feel like that if council went back and listened to some tapes, I've been ringing this bell for a long time.
You have been. I remember you saying this since I've been here. But it doesn't make it any easier to try to.
Well, what's really not easy is when you have a bunch of employees sitting around like, hey, we're doing a good job,
Go
and
through
we're like,
negotiations.
I'm like, sorry, I'm lucky I made payroll this month because we have a cash flow issue. Like,
And if
and
you
they're
look, we
looking
did
at me
0,
like I'm
0,
crazy,
0 across
you
the
know.
board, because we had nothing to show them. So try sitting in a room with them saying, for the next 3 years, you're not
We
getting
have
a
a-
raise.
We have a good team down there.
You
guys.
do. You
I'm
guys are
telling you.
outstanding.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
couldn't be prouder of those guys. These were the best team I've ever worked
And you
with in
have to know
38
that
years.
retaining
Yeah.
I'm not blowing smoke.
skilled
I don't got a
labor
stinker in the
is
bunch.
important because it's going to be hard to get people in to. Nobody,
Let me ask you this.
know,
Why
We
does
already
our,
lost a class 3.
Yeah.
why does this happen? So
From
all
Mahoney County?
wastewater treatment facilities and
One
all
of
of
our
our
young
facilities,
classes.
they have to run as an enterprise, and they cannot be part of the city's general fund? That's just how ours runs? I mean, is there, is,
No, I think
sir, do you
it's
know that?
classified that the, I don't know if someone like,
You don't know
And every
that.
community that we work for knows
it's an
that.
enterprise.
They're all an enterprise,
Here's
they've
the
never
difference.
integrated into the city?
Here's the difference. The main difference, besides the fact that you have to keep it all separate. You can run an enterprise fund like a business, right? You're expected to. It is a business.
I thought we were just.
And that's not what you do with your general fund, right? So this is completely, I had a problem with this when we were going through this, like just wrapping your mind around the fact that you have to really flip in how you're looking at it. You obviously want to provide the best service for your people at the best price that you can. But it's not tax dollars, it's.
Yeah, I get,
you know,
no.
it's-
Hey Dallas,
It's hard.
let me interject.
Go ahead.
So I guess the question is, there's been so much discussion on it, and we're getting kind of late. Do we want to pass an ordinance, you're requesting an ordinance, Guy?
No, we don't have one.
We don't have one.
We don't have one in
This
front
was
of us.
just
Conversation.
information.
Just information.
Okay. I thought you were asking for an ordinance to
So
set
are you
the rates
gonna,
right now.
bring us a ordinance that needs to be passed on, who would do that? You,
Yeah.
Mayor?
We would have to propose something.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Take it through three
looking in
readings,
these,
get
yeah,
the-
but I mean, looking at these terms, we're going to have to do something. The do nothing option isn't an option,
Right.
okay? I do think that we need to go over this and try to figure out it as affordable as we can, but it seems like they've ran it every different way, correct?
We really have.
So what we need to do with
60
this,
days.
we don't have an ordinance in front of us.
Okay.
What we need to do is go home and go over all this information and make sure that not just in 20 minutes of conversation, it makes sense to everybody, right?
100%.
That's why we didn't propose it.
Yeah.
This was great.
This is a
Education
lot,
very
this is a
educational
lot
we
to
got today.
digest, it truly is.
It's the best meetings we have.
Go
you know.
Might or might
Go
not
through it,
have
please.
the information, but I guess I would have liked to have seen, and I should have pulled it out, not, so you're talking about $18 for the whole year for this debt service in the first year per household, right? So with the, was it $1.18 on the usage?
Yes.
Yeah.
$1.18.
On the average use of a customer, what did that equate to in a year?
So if you raised yours.
So not the old, just the new, right? You said it was $20 or $25 on average.
$25, we said
So
the
what's
average
that
bill.
dollar gonna by itself?
So your monthly increase that you would expect if you raise rates just in the first year, it would be $6.91 on average per month for those average users.
Okay.
On an annual basis, that's $83 increase a year. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
It's a $20 or $25 a month that you went off of first.
That was the average. It's on this chart right here.
That's what is being projected right now.
Yeah.
That assumes you're
per
paying.
household a year.
So yeah, it comes at $82.91 a
That's
year.
correct.
So when you add it was $1.50, so $18 and 83
Yeah, you're going
divided
from.
by the 12. I mean, it's not. I know it's more, and no one wants to pay more, but it's not such a crazy amount.
I understand.
Yeah, it's just hard to
We get it.
It's gonna go from $25 to
You
$37,
also-
and I know that's by 2026, but that's $25 to $37. That's a lot. That's a lot of an increase.
And you know what? I'm gonna be honest. It's not a lot to me. It's probably not a lot to anybody sitting here. Okay, the $10 a month, but it is a lot to some people that really have a hard time affording life as it is. And a lot of those people, they live here. So, you know, we serve them as much as
Is
we
there
serve
any way
anybody
that
else.
people can get help on their water bills?
Well, there
Water,
is,
sewer.
yeah.
Well,
Or water bill.
Yeah,
I don't know what
there's
our-
things like
There is
tip
that
for
aqua, that's right, but not
gas,
for
for
sewer, I'm sorry.
electric.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there are programs out there I know of for gas and electric. I don't know for
Well, there is for
but-
water, but not.
They
not
just
sewer.
started.
Not
They just started, yeah.
Okay.
Program.
Was that thing also posted?
Well, we got a lot to go
Yes.
over.
Yes, you do. We just
Well,
wanted to bring this forward to you.
Yeah.
And inform you, and
Listen, everybody here is gonna make the necessary decision to make sure that everybody has water and sewage in the city, you know what I mean? We might not like it.
I don't
But,
believe
you know
that. I
what I
don't
mean?
like it
But
either. I don't
we're
like
gonna make
it
this,
either.
we're gonna make the best decision we can, you know what I
And we
mean?
have worked hard to economize what we could do down there over the years too, but the driving costs are,
I get it.
uncontrollable
And you
costs
didn't
are
exactly
unbelievable.
inherit,
Well, no, and there was, but it's just ongoing maintenance. It's like anything else, your house, your vehicles.
Yes.
You have to keep up with this to keep these things operational.
Right.
And we're under a situation that there is no forgiveness for failure.
And that's why, like, at this
Your
point,
necessity.
we would have to have
We
50
are,
cents
and
a
everything
year
that I do
from
down,
here on
that
out.
we do down there is a
Or,
necessity.
you know what I mean? There
Exactly.
has to be like some kind of increase every year or slightly, just so people aren't feeling it so much, but we're still getting that increase, and we can't go without. Like,
but
what we're going.
from what he has described,
That's not gonna
that
help.
won't put us where we need to be.
No. I mean, once we get to the point, like, we need to make the increase, but we can't go years without increases.
Right, like we just went
That's
25
what-
years,
that's
that's
Yeah.
why we're
Yeah,
the
years
way we
without.
are.
Well, I wasn't here 20 years ago, but
No,
I'm
it's
sure we're gonna have to deal with it when we
Some of
pass
us
this,
were.
you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? No, I'm
But
saying
not in
that
this
none of us were
capacity.
here, none of us made those decisions, but we're all certainly going to have to face the reality when we do make them, that these people are not gonna be happy about this,
Right,
you know what I
but
mean?
the alternative, they would
Is
be-
far
is
worse.
Far worse.
I agree.
Or that's gonna be.
Like I said, we all have to do this, none of us have to like it, right? You know?
And
Well,
this
I
is
have to
something
look
if
at
we
the
take
future.
3 readings
Yeah.
Right,
and
we'll
have people,
have to
and we
talk
can
about it.
maybe,
Well, I mean, to tell you the
Explain
truth,
more.
it's disheartening that the guys didn't get a raise. I mean, 0, 0,
You
0
have no
across the board.
idea.
No, I believe you,
The
Kat. I
last-
know how much you care, and we all care the same way. I don't want those guys not to get a raise, right?
But it's
More,
not
that's
only
not
about
even
that,
why
it's
we
just,
raise-
it's not even the
raise it to give
crux
them
of
a raise.
this.
But,
That's
It's just-
nothing.
I understand that. I understand that. We're doing this to maintain, but part of maintaining is our guys getting a cost of
It is.
living increase.
It is.
That is,
And
you know what I mean?
the first.
I'm not saying we're taking this money away, but I'm
Right
saying
there.
that's,
Right.
But
Right
it's
there.
more-
Employee retention is built into this.
yes, but I'm not exploiting that. I'm saying our guys need to get a cost of living increase. And it has to be done, and the fact that they got 0, 0, 0 tells you that we're not in good standings,
with
that we're
that.
not able to do that. I get
but
it.
to show them, like, look, we can't do anything.
I understand.
It was heartbreaking to both of us.
I understand.
We tried everything.
Well, that, again, that's why when I alluded to before the possibility that we didn't have to run it as an enterprise, that way the rest of the general fund budget would pitch in.
Right,
But that's
then
not,
we're just
that's,
gonna be
This is actually a business end of the system.
going down.
We run it like a business, and that's what.
It is what it is.
Consumer
I mean,
face.
they're gonna be here anyways.
And all we can do
listen,
is tell them, well, if we don't do this, this is gonna be the situation
It-
we're in.
And
We
maybe
really don't-
this might be a very small offering, but maybe we go to Frank in the stormwater and we come up with ways for people to like, hey, you need to
We need help.
economize, this is how you can save money on water, because your rates are based on your consumption, so every time you're running your spigot, it's gonna charge you sewer rates. Well, it's a something, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Some kind of
some
an
Yeah, I mean-
education, a
purpose.
flyer, like you need to conserve water
Again,
to save money, whatever. It's
we
better
all
for the
know we're gonna
environment,
have
too.
to do something. We're gonna have to raise.
I thought in
right?
the stormwater management, there was an educational fee that they're allowed to use for education.
They
They
do. Yeah,
do.
we always
We
do.
do.
They always do.
We have used it at events. We've used it at the school systems.
We
But
did
we've
shower
never-
timers
Yes,
with the schools.
we've never done a mass education of the entire
Okay.
customer base, if it's a mailer or whatever.
We went
I
to
don't know
the
if it'll
schools
help,
and tried
but
to
it's-
explain to the
it's
kids
something.
with the shower timers. That it's
No more
important.
bomb showers
Gotcha, I understand.
for you, Mister.
So we are trying with
Big.
A simple thing, a
After
simple thing
tonight,
people don't realize,
take a break
put
for
food
3
dye in
weeks.
your tank in your
3
toilet.
weeks. This was 3 weeks.
And go, do it before you go to bed, wake up in the morning, see if you got any of that dye in your toilet. You got a leak like that in your house, 1 or 2
I did,
toilets,
yeah.
I'm gonna tell
It
you what,
costs a
your
lot of
water
money.
bill's going up.
Oh, no
Yeah.
doubt.
It's going up.
Yeah, I saved a lot of money just putting new guts in.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of money.
But people don't realize something simple as that. It's like leaving your refrigerator door cracked open. It's gonna run forever.
Like you said though, just the guts of the toilet is $15 to $20, and there's your bill right there.
Exactly.
That's your income.
And that makes a huge increase on what your bill would be, your water bill would be.
So it seems like we're gonna have to do
We're
something.
gonna, yes,
Let's,
we will have to keep
To maintain the
talking
integrity.
about
you
this.
have
Do you
to
want
do
us to
Ordinance
bring a
together.
sample ordinance
I would say yes.
to
I mean, it's
Yeah,
gonna have
just
to.
caucus next, is that okay? To get it on the agenda for next week? Okay.
So it'll be a first reading next week.
yeah, we'll go
Okay.
3 readings, and if we
Because we
need to make
got
changes,
through a
we'll
little
make
bit tonight, you know, we can.
Oh, I felt like
finish it
we did
twice.
great. That's what we're supposed to do.
Well, I wanna thank Guy and Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for
Appreciate
waiting
your
so
time.
long.
Thanks, Buzz.
Thanks, guys, for all the
Thank
And I'm
you.
sorry I have to
It
bring
seems
this.
like the copies made
No,
for
don't
the
charge on.
updated
Sorry.
information are dated, so everything that is most recent and final is on this. So I'll leave this with you, and if you guys peruse through information on that, I would recommend looking at that.
Okay.
You guys, you know what I mean? That's all this is.
Hey, thanks, guys, have a great night.
You too. Right, and you all leave here? I mean, doesn't matter about anything,
Thank you,
but
Tony.
yeah, it's just,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Tony, very good. Very good tonight.
It's all on you, Dallas. You adjourn.
Hey, guy, how you doing?
You ain't done, where you going? Dancing.
Please don't hesitate.
You got a meeting.
All right, are you somebody adjourning? Did you adjourn? Okay.
did
I'd like to call this finance and legislation meeting to order. Mr. Baez?
I'm here.
Mr. Ballack? Here. Mr. Bigby's here. 3 pieces tonight. First one is from Kat. I'll read through it. A resolution confirming that the mayor and the auditor of the city of Struthers shall serve on the Mahoning County Tax Incentive Review Council, TIRC, for the 2022 and declaring an emergency. Can you speak on it all?
Sure, this is just something that it has always been done. Sarah Lowndes said we had to appoint somebody. They're gonna be going through this review, I believe, on March 18th. And that just reminded me, we're gonna have to change our time. I didn't think about it before I just said that.
Terry and I sat on it and would attend every year.
Okay.
And with the new mayor, we need a new ordinance.
You got it. Motion to bring it out.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Don't forget to tell me what you decide.
Okay, number 2, and this is from Bob Clyde, Supervisor of Parks. An ordinance adopting the rules and regulations governing the rental and usage of the Struthers Multi-Purpose Center and made part of Struthers Codified Chapter 959 Monty Park, Section 959.01, Struthers Multi-Purpose Center, and repealing ordinance number 21-052 and any ordinance inconsistent herewith and declaring an emergency. We've all went over this, we went over it earlier. Anybody got anything to say? Motion to bring it out.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. Finance and legislation, anybody got anything else?
I have questions. I talked to Bob Benson about Marion getting filled in. Do you have any update on that? Where the fire was? They have to like tear something down and the neighbors are not like happy about this
I
whole
know, but
thing.
we couldn't do anything until we got it in our land bank. It's in our
Yeah.
land bank. OJ's been over there, they assessed it.
So we were
It's
waiting
next
on the
list.
snow.
Yeah.
I think we're waiting on the snow to melt and
Yeah.
then he's
But
gonna
it's
this
getting
week.
done. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can.
You can't fast track it anymore.
No.
It is what it
That's
is.
what I know. But
Laura,
I have to
I got
ask.
one thing for you.
Yeah.
I've been asked a few times by quite a few people about solar power for the homes. And since that was your department, I actually have a company that was coming to my house to give me an estimate on it. And I thought maybe you would want them to do a presentation or come down here and talk one week, to kind of get that information out there.
Okay, sure.
Get with you about it?
Yep.
Cool.
Before I was interrupted, road obstruction on Sexton. There's like a huge hole on Sexton and 5th Street.
We're on it. It was an issue, Aqua was having corrected. Actually, I just called Steve Persick back today. They filled it too early and it sunk.
Okay.
We've been in contact with them. They had to wait again. We put cones in front of it. We had a FedEx driver call. I spoke to Jen Johnson about it. It's getting corrected.
Okay. I've had a lot of people calling about their Aqua bills because they're extremely high and they're getting late charges. for no reason. So I didn't know if that was
That I've
people are
addressed in
calling
the last 2 mayor's reports, if there's any.
to call Aqua.
Yep.
Well, they called Aqua and they said just ignore it. That's
So
what Aqua
Aqua's
told them.
charging them fees?
Late fees.
Late fees. Oh, late fees.
Are they late?
No. Payments were made on time.
It's across in the mail.
Oh.
And then
Yeah,
last
my
one is
paid mine.
67 Poland Avenue. It's a
Dead
rental. Joey
I
said
paid
he was
mine.
working on it,
And
but I
I
didn't know if
missed
you had any
mine.
update on
Sewer.
it. There's like a washer, dryer, and a dresser out back. They haven't picked up the trash in 2 weeks.
What address?
67 Poland
We're
Ave.
already on it.
Oh, yeah, that's on it.
Okay.
On it.
That's all I got.
Okay.
All right.
Those, you can ask me those anytime, you don't have to.
I know, but I was here, so I figured.
All right. Anybody, anything for finance and legislation?
Thank you, guys.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.